Caribbean Minister of Health must be an integral part of climate change discussions. Details to this story and more coming up in the National Report. With the details of the news for today, Thursday, October 18th, 2018, I am Wendy Edmonds. Health needs to be a critical component of discussions on climate change for small island developing states. That is the consensus of the third Global Conference on Health, which was held at the Radisson Resort. Health ministers from throughout the Caribbean discussed the importance of ensuring climate-resilient health systems in small island developing states and agreed that climate change will continue to affect the ocean, water resources, and food production. However, it was noted that the main impact will be on health since the health sector has been absent where climate change discussions are held. PAHO Director Dr. Carissa Etienne says they need to consider the various impacts of climate change and to prepare to mitigate against them.
We have realized that health needs to be incorporated in all efforts for mitigation and adaptation, working with other sectors. Leadership for this multi-sectoral approach is critical. An adequate health response depends on the leadership at the implementation level of government. Our appeal to you, Honorable Prime Minister, is that you assume the lead in placing health at the very center of climate change initiatives. We would also like your support to influence the other heads of governments of the Caribbean region to do the same.
Prime Minister Dr. the Right Honorable Keith Mitchell stressed that placing the issue of health at the top of their agenda.
As one of the regional leaders who drives the climate change and climate resilience agenda, it is encouraging to see this conference creating and affording opportunity for delegates to discuss the challenges we face and to determine solutions and recommendations and to develop an action plan to address these challenges. This particular conference also provides a testimony of the level of seriousness that my colleague Prime Minister of the region place on this very important matter, that not only touches our natural environment that many of us are so reliant on, but also addresses the health and well-being of our people.
Health Minister Nicholas Steele says the meeting entailed self-critical discussions on the systems that must be implemented and an action plan to minimize the number of citizens who will suffer or die as a result of climate change. He says the message of unity and change must be clear.
One of the first steps to ensure that coming out of this meeting a clear message is sent to WHO first and foremost as health ministers, that a SIDS desk be set up, that our dear Dr. St. John be empowered to represent us as a sister and daughter of SIDS nations, that she be our voice and our champion in Geneva. So we have developed an action plan. I believe we have developed a worthwhile and worthy action plan. We now need to put it into action.
The Grenada National Accreditation Board is seeking to ensure efficiency in the process of accrediting educational institutions in Grenada. It included a two-day workshop on Thursday designed to pave the way for revising the 2011 Accreditation Act. Executive Director Pauline Finlay says there are some inconsistencies in the Act, so the workshop was designed to get stakeholder feedback for revision. Details from Annette Moore.
One thing the process has to do with the amount of power given to the minister. Another thing, the composition of the board and the qualification of members. What skill set does the board member bring to the board to debate issues that deals with accreditation and make decisions? It's one of the things somebody pointed out. Then you have the development of SR&O. So you have the act, but we do not have regulations that govern.
Recommendation isn't included that you could potentially just submit the findings. The minister could just submit the findings and not the findings and the recommendation. Is that what you're saying?
The consultation sparked lively and informed dialogue on the issues at hand.
Well, I believe that the recommendations of the person or persons would be a recommendation of a course of action, so that the minister will take that course of action, then reflects the findings.
Will assess the expertise of participants to critically review the Accreditation Act No. 15 of 2011 to reflect new trends and practices and accreditation systems, while ensuring that clauses within the Act are current, pertinent, and in the best interest of GNAB's development.
Institutions and persons providing tertiary education need to be made aware of is that very soon the students graduating from their institution must hold a certificate from an internationally recognized accreditation body.
This is mostly to encourage a conversation on whether the Accreditation Act is in sync with international standards and policies and so on for accreditation.
Quality assurance consultant Mike Bradshaw did an overview of the quality assurance in higher education, focusing specifically on implications for the legal review. The consultant commended the work GNAB has done thus far, among other things.
Accreditation is a partnership. It's a partnership between the institutions and the regulatory body, in that to ensure that the policies and regulations put in place is fair to all and, most important, fair to the interests of the students.
With regard to compliance and fees as mandated by the Act, the consultant had this to say in terms of best practices.
In Trinidad, it was like about 3 years before the institutions, before it is impacted upon them. Sufficient time. There was training given to the institutions, to the external evaluators, both the regulator and the institution would have been on the same page, and that is actually a very fair process. So, I'm sure that the GNAB would give the institution sufficient time. Hearing the conversations and the discussions going on, I am sure that they will have enough information to make recommendations to the board and to the Ministry of Education.
Finley also provided further detail on current accreditation activities and a small update on the progress of that process for one tertiary institution in Grenada.
One of the things you do in accreditation is, because an institution has been established for a long time, there is something you call grandfathering, in that the institution would have quite a number of standards in place, and therefore we may skip 1 or 2 steps in the process and go straight to accreditation. So they may be accredited within a shorter period of time. We're hoping that by next year, we should do the earlier part of next year, we should complete St. George's University.
For the National Report, I'm Annette Moore.
This is the National Report. More news after the break.
Water up to my belly. Mattress floating, furniture floating, even the TV set floated for a while.
My sneakers were floating just like boats.
Floods. They can happen so suddenly. What can you do?
Listen, when I saw the portable toilet from the construction site, the road float by, and I realized that all that stuff was in the water.
Floods. Hazards. Take control. Reduce your loss. What can you do to help stop flooding? Keep drains and wells clean and unblocked. Find out lots more about floods and other hazards at your local disaster office.
A message from the National Management Agency and SEDERA.
Welcome back. Extension staff in the Ministry of Agriculture has been increased for farm visits as of this month. The announcement was made by Permanent Secretary within the Ministry of Agriculture, Elvis Moraine, during a recent consultation with farmers. He says one of the major concerns for farmers is the absence of adequate farm extension staff. Moraine said that the ministry has partnered with ICA and MAREP to provide training for the extension unit to adequately equip them with the skills needed to perform their duties. As of the beginning of October, extension staff will be sent to the farms in clusters, which will alleviate the problem of limited farm visits by officers.
extension services will be delivered in cluster. So in other words, you no longer see one officer coming to your farm, but it would be a collection, a group of officers. And these officers would be drawn from all the departments that offer extension services. So extension, as we know, extension, agronomy, livestock, pest and disease. So when they come to you, a group of persons will come to you, so you'll be served in every area. We are going to structure this in such a way that we're going to even be alerting the public as to when we are in the respective areas.
And that's the national report for today, Thursday, October 18th. On behalf of all of us in the newsroom, I'm Wendy Edmond, thanking you for viewing.
The CCJ will be a Caribbean court, reflective of Caribbean culture, Caribbean values, and everything Caribbean. I ask this question: which court do you think will adequately reflect the people to those who worry? Will it be the Privy Council, persons in Britain, persons who have never lived in Caribbean, persons who don't share our values, persons who don't understand what we stand for and what values we uphold? Or would it be our people who are growing among us, who live among us, who attend the churches we attend, who attend the schools we attend, who are members of the soccer teams that we are members of? Who best do you think will reflect us?
It's about time. It's long overdue. We should be there because, you know, get out of the British thing, and so we are all one Caribbean, and I think that will be binding us more together.
Yours is yours. Privy Council is not ours. No matter what we do, what we say, no matter what ties to England, this is the time to keep divesting ourselves of those strings that tie us unnecessarily.
There's nothing in this bill for any partisan political party. Nothing. There's only one thing in this. It's for the people of Grenada, Carriacou, Petit Martinique, and for the Caribbean region as a whole.
Justice must be accessible, affordable, and swift.
Grenada is about to embark on another historic mission of amending its constitution for the first time since its independence. From all indication, the push is for the changes to be made before the end of the year, 2 years after the first attempt failed.
I believe the CCJ is an important issue to take a second look at, and we're involving the same people, the community group, the legal professions, and other parties involved. And hopefully we'll have everyone playing a very united role in going forward, because if we do not work together, then clearly it's not necessarily going to pass. And I think it would be a tragedy of justice for this country and for the Caribbean. But I think it's about time that we stop having faith in everybody else but ourselves. All people, jurists have served regional and international institutions around with distinction, and it would be, to me, almost an insult to say to ourselves that we cannot be responsible for justice in our country.
2 years ago, 8 bills were tabled for constitution change. But this time around, the focus is on one which, if successful, will see the Caribbean Court of Justice replacing the London Privy Council as the final court of appeal. Prime Minister Dr. Keith Mitchell, who was re-elected to office by a landslide victory on March 13, 2018, says he intends to play an active role this time around.
And the CCJ so far has demonstrated that it has stood out in terms of its decision-making process. And no one can say that the governments who are now the countries that are now part of the CCJ are getting decisions based on the govern those in political office. So in that sense, the people should be very happy that it's very independent judicial process, and I certainly, as a Grenadian, and a Caribbean man, I certainly would want to support it. I would play a much more active role this time than I did the last time.
The bill seeking the constitutional change is already out. It's called the Constitution of Grenada Caribbean Court of Justice and Other Justice-Related Matters Amendment Bill 2018, one of the 8 attempted 2 years ago. It includes almost everything in the 2016 bill, but removed are the sections that speak about the code of conduct for public officials and the swearing allegiance to the country. Debate has continued over the years about doing away with the Privy Council and replacing it with the Caribbean Court of Justice system, the CCJ. The Privy Council in London and the CCJ based in Trinidad are both a final court of appeal that retries civil and criminal cases if the original ruling is thought not to be satisfactory. But proponents argue that the CCJ, formed and operated by the Caribbean people, would allow for a sense of independence and would make access to a fair trial much easier.
The arguments in favor of independence, the CCJ being an independent court, and in fact, the CCJ being one of the most independent courts in terms of structure and appointment of judges, not just in the region, but it is used as a model for other courts, particularly in relation to financing and in relation to the selection of judges. And that ultimately is the test.
There have been some recurring points of concerns about the idea of the CCJ as Grenada's final court of appeal, access, cost, and the likelihood of political interference.
What the CCJ has done and what has been approved with respect to the CCJ is the setting up of this independent trust fund that is managed by a board of trustees. And what is important about that board of trustees and the composition of that board of trustees is that you have no politicians at all on that board.
Former Minister of Legal Affairs Elvin Nimrod tabled the bill in Parliament in 2016. Newly appointed Minister of Legal Affairs Honorable Kindra Mathurin-Stewart says the implementation of the CCJ to Grenada will enhance the judiciary system of the trial and state.
For Grenada to have access to the CCJ as its final appellate court, that would mean for us here in Grenada that our people would have greater access to justice. As you know, with the Privy Council, persons had to travel far to England to access the Privy Council. But of course, the CCJ is right next door, and I believe, of course, with its location and its ease of access, that locals, ordinary people like me and you, would be able to have access to justice.
The Legal Affairs Minister says she believes there are competent experts here that are capable to execute the process.
I believe that we in the Caribbean are capable of creating and making our own jurisprudence. We don't have to depend on English judges and English folks to make jurisprudence for us. And I believe that we are well capable. We've had notable jurists and
Watcha, tell you them and lick up them idol in Grenada. Them
them and lick up them ital in Jamaica. All over London town, Rasta man and lick up him ital, yeah. So let it grow, so we can share it. Share it with our brother, share it with our sister. All over this iration. Keep on standing up, stand firm, yeah. This song is dedicated to all heroes and patriots who fall. This song called Innocent Blood, as I would say. In a revolution, some people are weak, while others are strong. Listen to my song. Listen to my song. Listen to my song. The weak turn to counter revolution, subversion and destabilization. Listen to my song. Listen to my song. Is the strong ones to stand firm and make things right? True. Show to the weak why we must unite. The weak, them, they don't know who they fighting for. Moving aimlessly in a senseless war. Murdering their people, innocent along the way. But we are go with them, so listen when I say.
Yes, indeed. Good morning to Grenada, Carriacou, and Petite Martinique. Once again, it is time for Hard Talk. My name is Sheldon Scott.
And I'm Devon Romain.
And we have a guest in studio, but we ain't given any name yet.
No, we ain't given any
Yeah,
name.
we will let the gentleman give his name in a little while.
Introduce himself.
Yes, he'll introduce himself. I know the man's name. I don't know the gentleman's name. I know the gentleman's name, and we're going to allow him to introduce himself in a little while. So you all know this is always a difficult day for Devon, huh? Yeah, this is always a difficult day for my good friend Devon. And for many people.
Yeah, and for a population, that up to this day has not yet come to grips and know the real truth of what went on 35 years ago, on this day.
And that is why we are trying bit by bit to try and educate people and let the people who experience those times speak. And as such, I'm going to introduce the gentleman now. We have a gentleman in studio with us, Mr. Roy Ruffin. Good morning to you, Mr. Ruffin.
Yes, good morning. Morning, Sheldon. Morning, Mr. Romain.
Yes, good
morning.
Morning
To the nation.
Yes, indeed. And this is your first time on radio, really doing something like this?
Actually, first time in a long time.
Yes.
First time in a long time.
Yes.
Yeah. It's yes. What do they call it? Cathartic. It's a good thing to be able to speak and say and let it out every now and again. When you keep it in, Devon always tell me that it's good when he gets the opportunity to speak about these things. Yeah. And so you were a part and parcel of the People's Revolution. But to start, can you tell us how you came? Devon, could you just get that there for me? Yeah. To start off, could you tell us how you became involved in the People's Revolution?
Yes, as I say, good morning to the nation again. This is my first time really speaking out since after that era. My first introduction to the whole parcel of the revolution was being concerned as a community member. Yes, and everything positive that happened, be it sports, be it groups, sports, like educational groups and so on, self-help, whatever, I used to be there. So buying into the revolution was always my, used to be my thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I remember the RL, those time. I was a young guy, and the paper used to be hidden to pass around, to inform the public of what we want to do. I say we at the time because, it was a what you call sensitizing people, but it was undercover though. Mr. Romain will remember those days. Now we have papers above board.
Yeah.
So that was just before the revolution, when you all would sensitize the population basically on issues and so on.
Yes.
Those days you all had to stencil this thing. You had to, you had to stencil and write out and then get somebody to copy, reel out the copy and so.
Yeah, Mr. Sheldon. It used to be manual, a lot of manual. Yeah.
So a lot of hand printers and so hidden.
Yes. So that was my beginning. And when I got enrolled in the revolution, well, in the morning of the whole thing, I was living at Latan St. David's. And you may heard or probably know that most of these things were orchestrated from St. David's. Latan come down. Yeah? And like I say, I wasn't a follower so much those time, but I was a believer of what I thought was, it should be nation building. So the morning, I remember there was an estate in the area that I lived. There was a gentleman that owned 2 or 3 vehicles, and when the whole thing started, folks was running into my area, big men at the time. I was a young guy, and they asked me to move with them. So we went and we were collecting people who had 2 vehicles. We were asking them, sort of commanding them to give us one. So we were riding along and to make sure that people understand what was happening in the morning. I don't think it was a circulated understanding, but throughout the whole ordeal, during the day, people started to understand. And well, there was the people, we had the defense force at the time. They was captured relatively easy in a revolutionary term, relatively easy. I remember the fire station where my cousin then was in charge of, and I, as a young man, was had to rough him up a bit to get him to surrender.
He forgave you though?
He did. Up to now, we talk about it. Being a young man, I was kind of behind letting him see me, but we had to rough him up a bit because he was very resilient, I don't want to call his name. I'm sure you know who.
Trust me, you know.
Yeah. But by and large, he went down blood free, more or less, and then that's where we began. That's where I began. So that was my formative years in the revolution, and some of it vividly. Maybe later on I might remember.
Okay. So what was your role during the period 1979 to 1983? We heard, March 13th, we've just heard of that. What was your role? How deep did you become involved in the revolution?
I'm from St. Andrews, but I reside at St. David's at the time. So I was wearing 2 caps, I remember being around the NYO and NWO, so to speak. Yeah, I even had my first mother, we met in the NYO. Yes. So I was more or less around the groups that do craft and things like that. Yeah. And on the educational side, I was a militia to start, like first to begin. I didn't stay long in the militia because I had my discipline, so I wanted to go on to the bigger thing. So I joined the People's Revolutionary Armed Forces. Yeah.
So you were in the People's Revolution. What rank did you attain?
I finished as a Lance Corporal.
A Lance Corporal.
Yes.
Within the People's. And what unit were you attached to?
And I was dealing with the anti-aircraft. At the time. I had a couple other training, but the anti-aircraft was my love, and that's where I was at the culmination of things.
Why anti-aircraft? Isn't that the one that they tried to eliminate early up in the game? That's not the first one they started shooting at?
That was the first one, and our air firing wasn't too on top, but we had a lot of trained guys those times. I remember vividly a gentleman they call, he died though, Elton Thomas.
Yeah.
He was my chief.
Yeah, Corporal Thomas.
Yeah,
Elton.
Yes. The night before he died, we was together because we share the same village, St. David Latant. Yeah. That's where he come from. And he was giving me a lot of stories there. To me, sometimes I wonder if people see the death, yeah, because I remember that guy saying to me, he sent his children, I don't know if you're going to fast though.
No,
he sent his children up to his mother who lives in St. David's, Latant. And he gonna fight, you know? So those days we were drinking Guinness. He drank about half case of Guinness, I remember that. And me and he shared a case of Guinness. I only drank about 3. Yeah, because I didn't like Guinness too much. And he was giving me a lot of his education, a lot of history of the revolution, a lot of his thoughts of how he get there and things that he sees should be happening and things like that. Yeah? So I remember the morning we had the anti-aircraft was set up behind the mess hall. Yeah? With the overlooking the sea. Yeah, the edge is there. And I was a site controller. Devon, you will understand those terms. And you have the gunner.
So you were up on which area? The fort.
The fort.
And Devon, you were down.
We were down
on Melville Street. Okay. So you all were basically the Western Defense at the town of St. George.
Yeah, aircraft, mortar, and anti-tank.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you were there. Yeah.
I was there, and what we were sharing that position, the site controller, as I say. There's one man, I remember, he's not in Grenada now, Vast Marshall.
Yeah, Redskin Vast
Marshall.
Man,
I met him in New York some time ago. He was a site controller too. So we had shared space at time, we interchanged. So I was going down to the armory to get some kits of ammunition with Elton, who was my chief. And while we were going there, we heard a boom, that kind of song. And I went down on my belly, I went down and kept my head down a bit. Pieces of things was falling on me. And when I look up, I saw Elton headless. Yeah. That's
how he died.
He died. That's how he died.
Morning of the invasion.
Yeah. We didn't reach through the armory to get the kit, the ammunition to go back. And I saw him there. That was the first man I saw. So these things, some of them I think, some of my stories. Like I say, it's my first time giving my story. Most people don't understand what went, and depends on where they were. Yeah, and what their role was at the time. Yeah. So I'll probably skip a bit because.
Let's roll back a bit though to October 19th. Let's look at the day before. Okay. October 18th, the days leading up.
Okay.
Where were you? What were you doing?
That will be after Bish.
That's before while he's under house arrest now. So let's look at the day before the events of October 19th. Where would you have been?
Okay, I was in Chublo part of the time. I was up Maribo by the farm school, the propagator side of things there. That's where they do the nursery area. Yeah. I was more based up there in the agriculture area there.
So they were rotating you guys?
Yes. Yeah, we were never stationary, except you have your specialties, your thing that you specialize in, But it was more a rounded. The revolution was rounded, Try to get everybody up to speed in a rounded way. Yeah. So I was up there, and everything was centered around St. George's at some time. And we start hearing things here and there, different people saying different things. So I came to town. I can't remember how I ended up on the 4th, the very 4th day.
On the 18th?
On the 18th. Yes. And I remember those guys was under house arrest, those names. One I could remember was Kenrick Radix. Dix. I was guarding him, the last person I was guarding inside that room. Going up to the fort, going up to the police headquarters now. There's this medical room on the left side going up there.
Yeah.
Comrade Dix was under house arrest inside that room there, one of those rooms. I was guarding him. Again, my chief gave me some command, some strict command. I don't want to call his name now. And he said to me, if the comrade come down the bed without saying he wants to use the washroom or anything, shoot him.
So you had strict instructions?
Yes.
Shoot him and shoot to kill?
But yes, of course. I didn't answer, but when he left the room, that's my chief, Comrade Dix asked me, Comrade, would you do what the gentleman told you? I didn't answer, because I didn't want him to know where I'm at. Yes? But just then, the demonstration came up the fort.
So this would be the morning now?
The morning, the demonstration.
Of the 19th?
Of the 19th. Yes, it came up. How this loud noise coming up? So I took a peep with my gun facing Dix, but my mind was facing the road to see what's happening. And I saw this crowd coming up that side there. But later on, I didn't see Comrade Dix. Yeah, when I really got back to really look at him, I didn't see him.
So you abandoned your post?
I abandoned my post. And I know during those time, abandoning your post was strict, eh? Yeah, I could have been reprimanded or something.
That would have been about what time in the morning?
Somewhere around the mid-morning, you know.
So that would have been around 9, 10, around this time.
That could be a little bit later than that.
Could be a little bit later too.
Yeah, closer to noon. Might have been 10:30, 11. Between 10:30 and 11:30, 12.
Yeah. Yes, could be around that time because, I
could have been around that time.
Could have been around that time. And I went up the fort. The comrade that gave me command, I didn't see him during the course of the whole thing. But I went up the fort and I saw those men lying up on the wall. Yeah? That's when I get to go up the fort because I didn't go up immediately. The noise, the Ahmad card and everything start going up, you know? And then the volume of people start getting louder, you know? Chucks and different thing and shell and the people was like, was a whole carnival like. Grenadians wasn't sensitized at least to behave on a strict area, a military area. All the care and all the concern was free bishop and all that, you know, and everybody was just bombarding the fort that day.
So who would have been the commander in charge of the fort on that particular day? Who would have been the senior officer on the fort on that particular morning?
On the fort, there was a lot of seniors, you know.
Stroud, Major Stroud would have been the most senior officer, and Lieutenant Sherbin would have been the duty officer.
You have different levels, different.
Yeah,
so this one in charge of that.
Yeah, the duty officer is the one that the day-to-day runnings of the fort, but then you have the overall chief of the fort in particular, and Stroud would have been the most senior officer present on the compound on that day.
Yeah.
So did you ever consider though that maybe you're leaving for the 2 minutes for Dix to escape from being detained?
Yes.
That saved his life?
Exactly. I do
that
believe.
probably saved his life, you know.
Of course he do, you know. I looked at it that way after. That's why I said to people, we need to make up with people, you know. Even though you think you were wrong, well, then you accept where you were wrong in certain instant, but out of a negative come a positive. So I remember I went to Dix before he died and I told him, Comrade, you remember who was guarding you at the time? XYZ, you know? And he told me, can't remember. He said, I come to you to let you know I was the person. He shook my hand. Under his glasses, he used to wear these small lens glasses.
Yes, I remember that.
He looked at me in the eyes. With you know, I was wondering what he thinking. And he said to me, oh, you was the one. And I said, yes. And then I realized he had this brotherly thing to me and I started letting go because I didn't know how he was thinking. Yeah. So I said that to say, it's good to make up. So I went to him and I told him and everything else. But to go back a bit though, I remember when I went up on the top square now, there was, the civilians was all over the place.
That's after you leave Dix and you went up to the top.
Went up to the top. You know, I could have moved freely because, of course, I was part and parcel of the thing. Move freely, but kind of apprehensive because I've never seen crowd like that, and you know, don't know what's gonna happen, who in the crowd have what. and so on. But some of my friends called me out, you did that too, and so on. So because people were wondering what side you're on then.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah?
So once they see you as a soldier, they're not sure which side you're on, so they just approach you in a certain way.
Yes.
Yeah, they wouldn't approach you like a brother, like, okay, look, my friend is like, okay, so you's one of them.
Yes, so you're feeling now, what am I doing, but you have to go do your duties, eh?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was in full grins and, just with my pouch and all, and my gun and so on and so on. But at the time, it's not like you fully understand what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah? But however, during the day, and we had this firing coming back and through and so on. But prior to that though, when we saw the lineup on the square there,
mm-hmm.
I remember some way there was somebody missing.
You're talking about the execution itself.
The execution itself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Sometimes I go at it, I jumble in it a bit, yeah?
Yeah.
According to how the mind juggle.
Yeah.
Sometimes. So there was this person that they found.
So you saw the execution?
Oh yeah. I look at the execution as well, looking at the wall there. Yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I look at the gunners, I look at everybody, the placement where they were to before the command to shoot came on. Yeah, I saw all that, and looking there, Fitzroy Bain was the last man. They banged him on the wall because he was missing. Yeah, he held up the mission.
Mm-hmm.
So when he came in and then the shooting start, the firing start. Yeah, yeah, but there was different.
Before we get to the firing though, there's the noise. You've left Dix. You've gone up to the top end.
Yes.
People are coming up to the fort. Some people casting little remarks and that sort of thing.
Right.
What happened when the firing started? Or did the other question that keeps coming from different places, I've heard Devon speak on it, and I know he'll speak on it again today. The firing started. In your view, where did the firing start from? Did it start from up on the fort, or did it start from the vehicles coming up to the fort? Did you see the vehicles coming up?
I saw the vehicle coming up, some of it, yes.
But what did you think when you saw the vehicles coming up to the fort?
Well, of course, I thought it was vehicles coming to protect the fort, yeah?
Oh, yeah? So you thought it was a mission of people coming to protect those on the fort?
Yes. Yeah, that was in my mind at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But when I saw those folks line up on the wall, line up besides the wall, I thought this is more than that in my mind.
That's the walls leading up to the fort?
That's the top square. Right up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah? Yeah, the top square, that's where the execution went on.
Yeah.
So I was overhead.
Mm-hmm.
I was overhead in the bushes there.
Okay, but I'm still getting at the point now the vehicles coming up to the fort. You started hearing firing. You just heard firing from both sides, or when did you hear the first shot?
It was when I was coming up the fort.
Mm-hmm.
So I stayed back a bit. I heard some firing. I couldn't tell where it was coming from.
Mm-hmm. Your position, you couldn't tell where it was coming from?
No, I couldn't tell where it was coming from. I was more safeguarding myself too, because although I have my gun, but I had to be...
Bullets flying. It's not like it's going to say, use a soldier, don't hit you.
Exactly. But it ceased for a while. Yeah?
So there's one volley, and then it ceased for a while?
Yes.
And then what happened? It started again, or what happened after that?
No. When the next, in my mind, what I saw, when it started again, is when them guys was against the wall.
Oh, that's when the execution. That's the next set of firing.
That's the next set of firing I heard.
Roughly, I know 35 years later. 35 years, Devon? 35?
Yeah, 35 today.
35?
Yeah.
Yeah. Later it might be difficult, but about how long did the first set of firing, not the execution, we're not going to the execution yet, but the first set of firing, how long did that last? With people jumping left, right, off, running down, everything. About how long did that first volley with the armored cars coming up to the fort, how long did that last?
I would say it's about 5 minutes, 5 or 10 minutes.
It would have been more than that, but not.
Yes.
constant barrage. But go ahead.
Yeah, that firing to me was about 5 to 10 minutes, and then I start proceeding more up, you know, to my cover area. Because remember though, I weren't under command those time again. Yeah, everybody were more left to take defensive action, you know, because we were trained to defend the fort. The fort. That's what we were trained. Our first training. Once you go on a military area, you defend that area. Yeah, yeah. I was stationed there for a while too, so I know that was the.
Okay. So the first set of firing has ended. People have dispersed from the fort and so on. What did you see at that point in time, before the comrade leader and others were taken out? What did you see between the point when the first set of firing ended and they're bringing out everyone to line them up? What did you see at that point in time?
At that time, I could have seen the hierarchies of the force, the army then, were moving in and chatting in little corners, you know. You know, I suppose then make sure all the logistics was in place and so on. And I think that I saw that for a while, moving up and, you know, moving around, that shuffling around. But it didn't last for long. You know, there was disbusting people from the area. Yeah. There was people that was adamant that they want to be there still, you know, so forcefully they had to take people away from that place there. I remember a lot of people I've seen around now, they didn't want to leave.
They didn't want to leave the compound?
The compound.
Civilians?
Civilians. But
the brave, after all of this, they still stand up. After all this, they still stay there and decide we don't want to go?
We are a unique people, you know, when it comes to guns and even rain.
Yeah, man.
So you're telling me that there were civilians there that just telling them straight, we ain't going?
We ain't going. Yeah, it's like, you know, I don't care if I die, I die, you know, so that kind of thing. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I know. I saw people who was like, you had to force them, raise them out, you know, go on boat and all that, you know, as people just ain't moving. You know, but there are those who have run, who scampered away, heave down the walls and so on, heaving down the bushes, you know, and they move out. But like I say, it wasn't quite easy to get everybody cleared that area. Okay. So clearing the area was a challenge. And then
the dead. Who did you see? Before we go to the executions, who did you see?
You talk about the people that died?
The people that died.
Well, just
because over the years you've been hearing some kind of out of the way numbers and all kind of thing about
ridiculous numbers.
300 people die on the fort and
man.
hundreds dead on the fort.
Ridiculous
and
numbers.
all sorts of things that you've been.
Sheldon,
I mean, it's obviously ridiculous. 300 people die on the fort. They have family. They would have families.
Of course.
So you would have a
Lots
record
of
of
family.
that. But what did you see there? How many people roughly
line up on the wall?
Did you not only line up on the wall? Yeah. The others who would have been killed in the initial attack by the armored cars and the trucks that came up to the fort on that day.
And
Did you interact or see anybody that died at that point in time or were injured?
Yeah,
at that
I saw
point
one
in
or
time?
two. A lot of people, you know, who got damaged, you know, got their foot, you know, broken and shot here and there, you know. I remember, but a lot of people died in different ways, you know. Different ways people died, you know. People. There was this sort of a stampede too. A lot of people got mashed down and so on, you know. And people would have run into the death too, you know. The crossfire again, that was another thing. A lot of people got killed in the crossfire.
Killed a few.
Yes. So there was a whole, the whole thing about giving a death toll. I don't think anybody have it on the nail. I don't think anybody do. We heard a lot
in your estimation, how much in the crossfire? You may not have seen everybody because obviously it didn't go right around the compound.
Yeah, it is hard for me to tell because, like I say, I was above looking at the bigger picture.
Okay, you're on the upper level, so
yes.
you would not have seen.
Yeah, because a lot of people died more on the first square, in the bottom square. Yeah, a lot of people died there. The crossfire was basically on the bottom square between, because you know there's a tunnel area coming in there, and it could get trapped in there too. Tunnel is not long, but
Yeah, no,
yeah. Once you're in there,
Mm-hmm.
you know, according to what kind of weapon that somebody used there, you could get trapped.
Mm-hmm.
So, and there was a crossfire, so it's not like we had target bullet or so.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there were maybe 1 or 2 target bullet, but you know.
So that has happened. The fort has been retaken by the People's Revolutionary Forces. They've retaken the fort right now. Before the leadership is lined up, what was taking place outside of the little conversations here and there? You're at the top level. What were you seeing from the top level at that point in time? Well, from the top level of the fort, before they brought everybody out and they lined them up, did you see them doing anything differently?
What I do remember, you know, is people were disgruntled. You know, there was this.
The soldiers themselves.
Yes, there was disgruntledness, and people were really trying to find out from one another who you believe in, who you know, who you're for. If you're like code, or if you're for bishop, you know, that kind of talk was around the place. And you know, some people was trying to show you a bishop soft, and the principle that you know we begin with wasn't following. You know, people. He was more defined from the principle set off. Yeah, because you remember we were taken over by the gun, and then we start even Gary, the people that was Gary then were buying into the revolution afterwards. Because there was this concept of the things that was happening, you know. We had the positive things like the agro industry, the CP, the milk program, you had the airport built, you know, to accommodate, you know, bigger traffic and all that. We had the banks, the NCB bank then, you know. A lot of gains, that the positive things that was happening before the whole thing that, you know, got people into buying into, well, the bishop wasn't bad after all. The revolution is not bad after all, you know. So we had this double kind of thing playing around. But however, the whole concept of the era then started changing. Yeah, so we had a what you call an infighting, so to speak. I don't know where it stemmed from, but like I say, I think that could have been some of the things that caused this
friction that was taking place.
Yes.
So there's that conversation taking place on the fort at that point in time between soldiers that are based on the fort, Bishop Tussoff, and these different discussions and so on.
Right. You saw when the leadership was brought out. How were they brought out? Bishop was in a little green was bareback, I remember. If my memory serves me right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, them guys was out with a handcuff.
They had them handcuffed?
I think they was behind the back, if I remember right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah? All those folks that came out, I think there and then they thought they would have been killed. Mm-hmm. You know, the way they came out alone, it showed that
were they resisting, or did they just walk out, resign to their fate?
There was little resistance. There was little resistance. Yes. But they were. You could have seen a sense of surrender. You know.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay, so they're brought out and they're lined up. Explain to us exactly what you saw.
Well, I saw those guys. They were on top of the buildings with full automatic rifle.
For somebody who doesn't really know Fort George that well, explain to them. So they're on there's the parade ground.
Right.
There's the wall there with the basketball hoop and thing there. There's the wall there.
Right.
So you had some people down on that level?
Like
some of the firing squad were at that level.
Some people was on the far end.
Mm-hmm.
When you're going up the fort there, if you know that area well, on the left side there was some gunners on the bottom.
Okay, so there were some people on the same level as those to be executed.
Yes.
Right.
And there was some on top of the building.
Looking down on the courtyard.
Yes.
Okay, so two sets.
There were two sets.
Mm-hmm.
There was on the flat, same level with those that got killed, and there was some on the top.
They brought them out. Were they just brought out and executed immediately? I know you said they waited until they got the last person in, like that was holding up what they were going to do.
Yeah.
As soon as he was brought out, were they just immediately executed?
Yeah, it was moments after. There was just straight automatic bullet.
Did they die? Did everyone die immediately? Or was it a situation that they went back and finish off some people, or what was it? I mean, we have to say it as it is, eh?
No. I'll say it as it is, you know. I saw a man over Bish, can't remember who it is, and you know, give him the last. Yes?
With a handgun.
With a handgun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah? But I believe all of them would have died from the impact, the straight impact. Mm-hmm. Because it wasn't no bow gun, it was machine gun and full automatic. You just pull and spray, and that was it.
Okay, so you're still on the fort. The leadership has just been executed. What was your next move? They've just been executed. The bodies are still there. What was your next move?
Okay, my next move was, you know, it was me and my mind now. Yes, waiting to hear what command we will get. Mm-hmm. What happened next? Mm-hmm. Because you're just seeing your leadership of your country got gunned down, and in your mind, you wonder. I was wondering, what next? Mm-hmm. But the next thing that happened, moments after, we were in a meeting in the mess hall, a big meeting in the mess hall, and we were told, well, today you see what happened here. Those guys, principle is principle, and who disobey shall die. That was words of one of those comrades.
You care to say which comrade said that?
Comrade Abdullah, who chaired that meeting.
So who disobeyed shall die.
Mm-hmm.
But wasn't that just also a message to you all?
Of course.
A direct message to you all.
That told me a lot, you know. For myself, I thought, well, of course, if I disobey, well, who is me? You know, that was my thing. Mm-hmm. You just killed the head of state in my simple thinking mind at the time. You know, so who is me next?
Okay. Who removed the bodies? And when were the bodies removed?
The bodies was removed by some of our soldiers.
Were you involved in removing the bodies?
Yes.
Which bodies did you remove?
Sheldon, I don't know. And that question is very, very important to me. I remember the yellow truck. Those days we used to call them the Janet truck.
Janet truck?
Sir, you remember the name of the truck?
Yeah, PW truck. They're those public works truck.
Public work. Yes. This truck was waiting to collect the body. We used the big blanket. You see the blanket, the PRA blanket at the time it was called. Then you put the body on the blanket and you count and heave on the truck. I remember doing that with one guy, Norris Bain. May his soul rest in peace. I couldn't go ahead further because it was blood, pieces are playing all over the place. And I said, comrade, I can't make it. After we did that first body. Yeah? Mm-hmm. So with a push, he pushed me back, pushed me up. I had to go in the mess hall and do something else.
You had to try and collect yourself.
Yes, because it's just like I couldn't take this tension, the whole thing that was going on, watching people on the ground and so on. But I remember doing one body was Norris Bain.
Okay, so the bodies had to be collected at the top, put into the blankets at the top, and then brought through the tunnel.
Yes.
Down to the lower level.
Yes.
Where the car park is right now there.
So to speak.
Right.
Yeah.
So the trucks would have been organized and they were there. How many trucks?
I can't remember how much it was, but I remember.
You know at least one because you were loading
I know
one.
who were driving one, two. You see these things and them. I think the gentleman died too, so already. So I don't know, but sometimes.
What's his name?
Can't remember his name, but he used to live in my area, St. David's.
Okay. He was a soldier or he was working with public works?
He was working with public works.
Okay, so as a civilian driving the truck at that point in time.
I remember that. Yeah.
So the bodies have been collected. The area itself, what's taking place in the area? They washed down the area or they just left it like that?
No, it was sprayed. Some part of the day it was by the fire truck, I think, or some heavy hose. I think it was the fire truck.
Fire truck.
Yeah.
So that's the last you saw the bodies?
That's the last I saw of the body.
All right, so the bodies have now been collected. They're taken off the fort.
Yeah.
You all are brought to the mess hall, and you all are given that lecture.
Yes.
By what rank did he carry at the time? Abdullah carry at the time? Lieutenant?
First lieutenant.
First Lieutenant Abdullah.
Yeah.
On the fort itself, when they were executed, who gave the order?
I can't remember.
You wouldn't have heard the order itself.
What I heard was they started the shooting. But I can't remember.
Because where you were on the top side, it may have been difficult to hear exactly what was going on at the bottom. So you didn't
I was
hear?
just looking on, but I didn't hear exactly of who gave the order.
What of the conversation that's out there, the story that we've heard that Maurice refused to turn his back to the executioners, that he turned around? Any truth to that?
There could have been some truth in that, There could have been, but I cannot say from my end now. Yeah, yeah, because it was shuffling and shuffling, while they were there. Some people were just waiting. You could have seen that, give up kind of thing, but there was some little shuffling. But like I say, with full automatic rifle, I don't think anybody could have resisted that time.
Okay, so that night, any sleep that night? Could you sleep that night?
It was no sleep from since. Sheldon,
no, I'm asking,
Sheldon, the only thing
it says a lot about a person able to sleep that night,
I remember only having the boxer, the triangle cheese. I think I had one or two of that. You see the boxer cheese?
The little round box and it has the cheese. Yeah.
That's all I think I had for the whole time, or maybe right up to now. Like
October 25th?
Yeah, I think you may be in between. I ate something else, but nothing could stay. At the time, I couldn't really eat a meal or so. It wasn't like that.
All right. And folks, we're speaking with Mr. Roy Ruffin at the point in time, October 19th, 1983, 35 years ago. He was a lance corporal based at the fort on the day when the various activities took place on the fort there. We also have Devon with us. And in a little while, we'll let Devon. Devon, I know you have to talk, And you know you have to talk today. He's been very, 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 very quiet in the corner, but we know he has to talk today as well. So we're hearing now, you were the person that basically placed Norris Bain's body onto the truck. You couldn't stand.
Wasn't me alone.
At that point in time, though, how many other bodies were brought down already? Or that was the start of the process?
No, there was a couple that went down.
Already?
Before. Yeah.
Pieces, in some instances?
Yeah, falling off from the body itself and so on. But you had to, rake what you could have and put on the blanket. And 4 of you carry. Well, yeah, gather who you're going with, gather the hands or foot or whatever. Once it's on the blanket.
With your hands?
With your hands, yeah. There was no time for gloves and things, Devon.
Well, yeah, Devon and Sheldon, both of us.
Sheldon, you remember that? Devon, you go put on your gloves, and so on. I can't remember going and put on no gloves,
No time for that.
It was like, we had to get this thing over with, So that was like that. So I remember vividly Mr. Bain, and that was it for me. Yeah.
You couldn't face that.
I just couldn't face. Yeah.
All right. We're not taking the calls yet. Let's have the conversation, and then we're gonna start to take the calls a little later down. Okay. So the night, no sleep the night.
I doubt.
What was taking place on the fort after that meeting? What were you all told to do?
Well, we were told to protect the balance of the revolution. Yes. There were talk about the Yankees getting the opportunity to come through. Yeah, some intervene forces. So we were more setting up to defend the remains of the revolution, I have to say.
Devon, let me ask, on that night, where would you have been on that night? You would have been at back at the fort, or where would you have been on that night?
No, the night of the 19th?
Yeah.
Nah, I was, well, not, I wouldn't say in hiding, but I left the fort, Region 1, and went, in a secure place then, just for the night.
You want to say that secure place? Or?
Well, no, just.
She don't want your name called.
Nah, she wants your name called.
She wants your name called. Okay, all right.
Morning, Jenny. Yeah, and just to basically cool out and so and reflect, because after going through all of that, you need some time to definitely reflect.
Devon, let's retrace your steps on October 19th as well now. So it is the morning of October 19th. Where are you? The morning of October 19th.
Well, I woke up. I was stationed at Queen's Park. We had a small unit there, commanded by Warrant Officer Archibald, myself, and 2 other soldiers. Basically, like a militia base. We was the first response to the militia units in River Road and around the the whole area, and so we were there. So I was based there, and so I woke up there that morning, all right, after the 18th, understanding what went on in St. Andrews and part of it in St. George's. Woke up at the camp, and so sort of deciding what to do next.
So you're trying to decide which side you're on?
No. I was clear. I was clear exactly what I wanted to know, right, and what I was about to do. And so, because I make no mistake, before the 19th, and persons will tell you, some of my good friends will tell you that I was one of the younger soldiers who had find himself in 1 or 2 places where the leadership of the military and the party were there trying to explain the whole question of joint leadership and the house arrest of Morris Bishop, and asking questions, which in a sense I should not have been doing as a soldier, but I just couldn't help myself. I needed answers. I needed to get more information to share with other people, and so I just find myself in these places, and trying to gather information and so on.
Okay, so you're in the process of gathering information and so on. Did you end up in Mount Welldale, and if so, how?
Yes. Well, when I left the camp the morning,
You left the camp armed or unarmed?
No, armed. I always carry my pistol. It was assigned to me, and I would not leave it.
What pistol?
A Makarov pistol, 9mm. Right? I would not leave it. It was assigned to me, and again, those who know me would always tell you, always have my pistol, and most of the times I almost get charged for it, having one in the breech, cocking it, putting one in the breech, and put on the safety. That was just me. It was not the right thing to do.
Not standard operating.
Not standard operating, but you would charge me. I was threatened so much time by Lieutenant Bridgman, Pop, to be charged, and so. But that was just me, Anyhow, but I left there with my pistol, dressed in khaki civilian clothes, and so khaki pants and a khaki top, and so, and headed for St. George's, because at that time was about after 8 minutes of 9, understanding that people were starting to gather, right, in St. George's, whispering here and there, and so, and then information reaching us also that there were a group of school children, and so heading from St. Andrews, coming down to St. George's.
So you all the militia, the army, afraid school children?
No, the information was there. That was the intelligence. So, soldiers in the different camps were prepared for anything because we were confined to base. It was surprising too that I left base, but I was not listening to no commander. So I definitely wanted to be out there with the people to know exactly what was their mood, what was their next move. and so, and left, went down to St. George's and walking around, seeing right around everybody's, that's Foodland, the Market Square. People start gathering and so, and then when about 9:30 minutes to 10, the crowd start gathering and you have people start whispering, we go into free Morris Bishop. All right, we go into free with leader. All right, and so, and you just start seeing people just walking, going up Marcel and going Lucas Street, and you just had to follow. Found myself in Mount Wendell, and so as a soldier, looking, and a lot of things happen. Right?
You were up at Mount Wendell. Name some of the people you see who you're not afraid to name.
Well, I mean, there are a lot of soldiers there, and so persons like Cornwall, Ayman Abdullah.
So Abdullah was very busy that day?
Yeah, well, as a matter of fact, Abdullah was the one that was responsible for security around Mount Welldale for the last couple of days, right? Guarding, the unit was guarding both Morris Bishop under house arrest and Bernard Court, because both the leader and the deputy leader was living close by, right, in different buildings, and so his unit would have been responsible for the internal security and everything like that, right? That's in addition to the personal security that was attached to them, and so yeah, there were a number of them, thousands of civilians, and so, and I remember seeing one of a couple of young soldiers on one of the armored cars. I think it was the BRDM, the small ones. And so on, the people was telling him, look, don't turn the guns on the people, don't, and he was just sitting there in the helmet, full combat gear, and so on, just watching. Nothing they could have done or anything like that. Well, I shouldn't say nothing they could have done, but just looking at them, you would have seen that they were basically, they had two minds. Not able to respond, couldn't get not knowing the command, what to do and everything like that. So a little bit confused, but they were just there, disciplined as ever on their vehicle, and just awaiting.
And meanwhile, Mr. Rufin, you're on the fort guarding Dix.
Yes.
So you're down at the fort guarding Dix.
I wasn't too much of the fine,
Up at Mount Welldale and so on. You're on the fort itself.
Guarding. Yes.
Right. Yes. So Devon, you and the others are up there. How did you all get Maurice out? And I'm saying you all because I know you had a hand in
it. Well, and the whole thing about the crowd, when the crowd built up, there was in excess of more than 7,000-8,000 people just around that small area, the road, the surrounding area by the Berean Church, come up by way the new parliament is there, and everything like that. It was just people. And when the crowd started gathering and they start getting unruly, we want a leader, free Morris Bishop and everything like that. And while there you heard some heavy gunshots, pow, 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 and that was the sound of anti-aircraft on the top side, right where the new parliament building is there, right there was an anti-aircraft unit there, right? And so, and that was the one fine, shots in the air. And you could have seen the trees, the leaves, and so
get people to move.
Yeah, and everything.
Yeah. So that's because previously when I heard this, I was hearing that the shots came from a BTR.
No.
The shots that cut down the branches and so from the tree did not come from one of the armored cars in the area. It came from
from an anti-aircraft that was right around there within
the area there.
Yeah, right around there. The BTR, the BRDM was at the bottom. And
that never fired.
No, that never fired. In my knowings, right? While I was there, it never fired. All right, so I can't tell you a BTR fired or a BRDM fired or not in that location. Right? Could be wrong, and so, but I know there were heavy gunfire, and so, and the trajectory, right, of the shots and so made me believe, know that it was an anti-aircraft, because it was not just like that. It was
elevated.
Elevated. You know, son? And the BTR
Okay,
would
your
not
speciality
have
was
artillery.
Artillery, and your specialty is anti-aircraft.
Yeah,
So you all deal with trajectory and that kind of
we
thing.
will definitely know that sort of thing.
Yeah, the
Understand? Anti-aircraft and so on, and the anti-tank.
more airborne.
Yeah. Mortars, and so you always deal with the trajectory and that sort of thing. So I would have an idea. But when that happened, the crowd, I mean, most of the people were scared because you must be scared of gunshot. But the crowd just rocked back as if they were going back down to the main road, and so for about 10 seconds.
Is this like a frightened story?
Yes, you know how, as we just see on the TV, and so how the tsunami and the tidal, the waves, and so the water go back, right? And so that was the mood of the people, angry. I mean, and so and they just make a move backwards, and in about 10 seconds, you would have think it was like boulders and stone and thing just rolling coming forward, because the people was coming forward. And in moving forward, the whole gate, there was a gate right in front of the entrance of Morris Bishop. They root up all of that. The guard hut, small green hut, end up at the bottom side of the road itself, because people were angry and they were not being deterred by the shots and so. Right? I mean, I stood there and I watched that. And moments after, the crowd just break through everything, and then everybody head towards the house.
Who went inside?
A number of persons went inside.
Who do you know went inside the house? Who went inside the house and take Bish?
I honestly I couldn't say.
But a number of persons.
Yeah, a number of persons come out and they were carrying him on you know.
The soldiers guarding at that point in time at the building. What did they do? They just stood aside?
Yeah, they just stood aside. And they, who was smiling, they just stand down. They stood down and everything, and some of them retreat back to the other building where Bernard Cole's house, his residence was. And so around there, they retreated back there. Most of the soldiers retreated back to that side, while the crowd just took Morris Bishop out of the house,
so
carrying him on the top.
So he's out of the house now. Where is he brought?
Okay.
They bring him over to meet court?
No. They brought him out of the house and so on. They brought him going towards the main road. When he reached around by where the guard hut was, he stopped right in front of the BTR, and he turned around and spoke to about 4 of the soldiers on top of the BTR or the BRDM. And he said, comrades, don't turn the guns on the masses, right? And he said that in just because, in my view, he was not the real Morris Bishop. He was not the vibrant man himself. You could have seen the weakness and the tiredness and so, but he was able to utter that words, and the crowd continue moving him onwards and so. When he reached the main...
Before you go, what was the response of the soldiers? Were they upset? Did they listen to him?
No, they listened. They were paying particular attention to him. They look at him and so on. None of them really respond or anything like that. But you could have seen what he said to them basically touched them. And I think personally, if he had given any one of them a command either to accompany him and so, they would have left. They would have come with him, knowing the kind of person he was.
Before we leave Mount Weldale, you said the rest of soldiers, that would be the team, Imam Abdullah's team.
Yeah, the security.
They would have gone over to Cords.
On the other side, yeah.
Where is Bernard? Is Bernard at home at that point in time? Is he at another location?
No, Bernard was home at that point in time. He and his wife. And
would he have been visible? Were people seeing him, or would he have been inside?
No, he was not visible. Right? Him, his wife, and a number of other leaders in the revolution. Ewart Lane, Bogo Cornwall, a couple of high-ranking soldiers and so were present and so at that time. And but Bernard and his wife, they were not visible. And so all during this time.
Tactically, was it an error to leave that area without placing them under arrest?
Well, first of all, it was not an organized something by the persons who went to free Maurice Bishop.
Mm-hmm.
It was the anxiety, the frustration, the eagerness to get the leader out of house arrest.
Mm-hmm.
That was the main goal by the people. Now, if it was something organized, or let's say orchestrated by a couple of members of the military, and so it would have been more, you know, it have played better. And so, but the concern of the people at that time, Maurice Bishop, nothing else, in their view, was freeing Maurice Bishop from house arrest and get him out of there.
Okay.
And so, you know,
so he is now out.
Yes.
Heading down Lucas Street.
Yes, well,
You're still looking after Dix.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was always on the food there.
Dix, you get food? They feed Dix?
Nah, no food wasn't passing that day.
No.
No, that food.
The dread circumstances, man.
Yeah, food.
No food for Dix, but you're coming down now with Maurice and the others.
Yeah.
That's the noise that you would eventually hear.
Yes,
when
coming down to the final leader kind of noise like that.
So you all were hearing that from over on the fort?
Yeah, that was like the whole of town.
Considering how town is, even when the anti-aircraft would have gone off earlier.
Oh yeah,
in Mount Weldale, you all obviously would have heard that over on the fort.
Yes, you're staying inside building and hear this gunshot. Yeah.
Okay, so you're heading down the road now.
Yeah, well, at the entrance.
How is he being transported?
Well, people brought him out on their hands. He was up in the air and
wearing
so,
what?
Well, short pants and a white T-shirt, light T-shirt. You know, that is what he was held inside.
What color short pants?
Ah, boy, it's possible
Blue,
it was
black,
a darkish green or blue, and so, but it was a short pants. Yeah, and he was definitely not himself in terms of the real Maurice Bishop, and so. When right at the entrance of the road, they put him in a vehicle. I can't remember what was the vehicle that they first placed him in, and decided to transport him down to the market square, because that was what everybody was saying. We go into the market square, we going down to the market, and so. But when the vehicle that he was traveling in reached by Berean Church, and where the school is Berean, right around that corner there.
So that's right as you come out.
Yeah, as you come out there, yeah. He was removed from the vehicle he was in, and he was put into a light green Mazda car owned by Mr. Charles E. David, the father of Peter David, Honorable Peter David, right? They placed him inside of that car together with one or two other persons. I think Jacqueline Kreff was there, and one or two other persons. And that vehicle left us there and drove down. Couldn't drive fast or anything like that, but
with the crowds of people.
Yeah, with the crowds of people, and so chanting and waving. We find we leader, and you know, and everything in that. And well, I continued walking down, and so. But by the time I reached on the top of Market Hill, and so I found it was strange. I seen a number of persons down at the market in front of there, but then I also saw persons heading up that direction, and then I heard somebody saying they brought Maurice Bishop to the fort. And you know, as a soldier, that sort of triggered all sorts of things in mind. And I say, you know what? That's where I'm heading. That's where I'm heading.
When you made up your mind, that's where you're going.
That is where I'm heading.
I would have done the same.
You understand? Yeah. And so, I left, excuse me, head straight to the fort. As a soldier now, reach it wasn't difficult, but when I reached it, there was thousands of persons up there. I mean, I had about 3,000-4,000 persons already there, right? And so who was down in town, who went up there. Noticeable though. And a lot of people keep running away from that. I'm not prepared to sit here and cover for nobody, right? And say this happened and that happened, and so. A lot of soldiers who were on duty, who had weapons, who was in full combat, and so were disarmed, right? Was assaulted by civilians.
So you would not have been disarmed because you went up to the top level.
Yes.
But those who were on the lower level,
yes,
would have been disarmed.
And I'm not saying things that somebody tell me.
I believe that.
It's things that I see, right? Yet a woman soldier female was crying, and so because they strip off a weapon and everything like that, and understandable, the vexation, the anger, and so by persons, and so I mean all these things would have happened, but it is a fact, and people continue saying, oh, that didn't happen to certain soldiers, and so, but that's things that I saw. But anyhow, and so I found myself right up at the command center because of two persons, Second Lieutenant Hippolyte and Lieutenant Sherbin Porgy, right? And so I was very close to them, and so and Prime, because Lieutenant Prime was my immediate chief of artillery, and so for anti-tank and mortar, and he was based on the fort, right? So I went straight there, seeing them, and then I went inside of the room, and so on. That is where we gathered conversation. That is where I saw Maurice Bishop, because they brought him into the ops room.
So that's your second time seeing Maurice for the day now?
The second time seeing him for the day on reaching.
How did he look? Did he look his normal self?
No. He was still pale. Persons say that he was being drugged. Persons, say that he was not treated rightly and everything like that. But something, the depression, something had him in that state.
He wasn't in his normal.
He was not in his normal.
You saw Jackie as well?
Yes.
How was she?
She was more
together. She was more.
Yeah. She was more together because she was, talking with other women, and so. But she was still sort of, in fright and in shock, and so like most other persons, and so in that room.
Let me ask you, Roy. Did you see when Maurice Bishop arrived at the fort? Did you see when he got to the fort itself?
No.
On October 19th?
No. What I saw is I was more at the back of the crowd. Yeah, because remember I was stationed at a point. Though the person had left the area.
Yeah. You still couldn't go.
Yeah, I couldn't go. But when I saw people who are new going up the fort, yeah, at a certain point I went, but a lot of people went before me. So I didn't see when Bishop, but he was ahead of me then. When he passed, I know I had a glimpse of him. The car, because you could have seen the different movement, the security-wise. So when a different person is, So you could have seen the car, but not seeing the person himself. So like, I remember on the fort at the time, I was never in no crowd, but person see me and they was asking, why you doing with that? Should only go on, and things like that. So the heckling started the demonstration, the crowd were heckling the soldiers, yes. Yeah, and some people would have, like you say, maybe disarm, take the gun.
I do believe
that.
And you see, understanding too, most of the persons were civilians and not understanding military procedures, especially in the headquarters of the military. Say what you want, it's Grenadians, it's our place, whatever, but there are rules and regulation when it comes to the headquarters of a military base, right, or a military. And so you can't just go up on the fort and the headquarters of the police and do what you want. There is rules and there are things that you can do and things you cannot do, and so. And
what about the argument that the commander-in-chief of the military and of the forces is the one that brought the people there?
And that was incorrect. And I could categorically tell anybody face to face that is a lie that Maurice Bishop brought civilians on Fort Rupert. Maurice Bishop was brought to Fort Rupert by civilians and other persons with their own personal agenda and whatever. Because there are a lot of mix-up things, there were different agendas by certain persons on that particular day. But Maurice Bishop did not bring anybody to the fort. He was not capable. He was not in his right mind to command persons. And so I know that because I saw him on the fort, right, before the team of nurses, including Ann Peters and others, came up to the fort and took care of him.
Yeah.
Right? And so put him sit down on a chair. And so sung him, test his pressure, blood pressure, everything, give him something to drink and everything like that. And a couple of minutes later, the man himself revived. And the first thing he asked for was a cigarette.
So this is
help me,
happening
God.
with you are in the ops room now.
In the ops room.
And Peters and some other nurses have
What?
come up now from the general hospital. They've got, well, walk across basically because
Walk across.
Yeah, it's right there.
A team of them, and they were
just walk across.
Enthusiastic because
Well,
their
you know
mission.
the nurses already.
Yeah,
So.
Yeah.
The message that they got.
Especially
That,
during
look,
the revel.
yeah, Morris Bishop need medical attention, and so, and they were dispatched, a team of them, and they were there, taking care of him. You understand? And within a couple of minutes, he sat there and he revived, and he asked for that cigarette and started to smoke. And the real Morris Bishop, the commander-in-chief himself, returned.
Who else is around in the ops room? You're in the ops room, Morris is in the ops room, and Peter's still there?
And Peter, the number of nurses, they didn't go anywhere. They stayed, most of them stayed there. Nurse Gittins. And there are a number of civilians. Was there military official men was there, high-ranking military persons. For example, Redhead was there, that's Goat. Chris Stroud was there, Prime, Hippolyte, Porgy, Peters, I was a communications man.
So Porgy would have been in the room.
Porgy would have, he was there.
Because he was the duty commander, so he had a responsibility to be at that location.
You know, so the number of military officers, Prime, and so what there. Now remember too,
Prime would have been at that location due to
well, that was his base. That was his headquarters.
To what position he held. That's why he was there.
So he was there, but notably though, right, during that period when the commander-in-chief revives himself and he starts speaking, one of the first things he ordered and he asked for, right, and he called on Major Stroud and asked him to accompany, I think it was either Major Einstein, Louison, and somebody else, accompany them to the top barracks, the top floor, and secure all the weapons, right, that soldiers had and everything like that, and what they could have get from civilians and so, and secure it in the armory and bring the key to him. Right?
So bring the key to him
as the commander-in-chief. And that was specific. Right? And that, and before I continue there, what was notable too, where weapons were concerned, the soldiers were not the only one that came to the fort with weapons. Weapons were taken from soldiers, right, on the fort itself, but there were persons who were armed, right, and so who were on the fort.
So people came with weapons from other locations?
From other locations.
So
either militia units, right, from the telephone company, right, and so because, you know, there were different locations where there were weapons put aside for militia and sort of thing, rapid response unit and that sort of thing. Different locations around the city, right? Telephone company was one, right? Our unit was another, and so there were persons, civilians who were carrying automatic rifles and pistol on the fort, right? In my view, who were not authorized to do so. But then again, the time, you know, was chaotic and everything like that, and the circumstances, you just free the comrade leader, and uncertainties loom over everything else, and so you know.
Let me flip back for a minute to you, Mr. Ruffin. Any attempt to disarm you? By the people on the fort?
Yeah, they were asking me to drop my gun, and you know, but like Mr. Romain say, at the time before Bishop got killed, I didn't have no weapon. The order would have taken place at the time, so all of us was asked to
disarm.
So at the time that he was killed, you were already disarmed at that
disarmed,
point in time?
Yeah, no weapon at all.
Okay, so when the folks were coming up on the fort, you were armed?
I was armed, yes.
But you were told...
Yeah.
So who disarmed you? Were you disarmed by military personnel or by civilians?
No, I wasn't disarmed by military personnel. I was disarmed by the order I thought at the time.
To give up the
yes,
weapon.
Because
so you were disarmed by the order that was given by Maurice at the point in time?
Yeah, because they were just collecting all the weapons from the soldiers.
Okay.
My own was taken that time.
Understand?
Okay.
By military personnel,
Okay, it was collected from you by other military
Yeah, because
personnel.
Stroud and I said a couple of other soldiers went there, so they were, approaching soldiers who was on the top who had their weapons still, right? And so
Which would have included Mr. Rufin.
Which would have included Mr. Rufin, and so some were already taken by civilians, and so when when all of that was going on, when Morris Bishop, the commander-in-chief, gave that order, and so that order was carried out by Major Stroud, right? He went, did what was told to him, and he came back with the key for the armory. But very interesting, the one person asked him for the key, and that was Vince Noel, and he told him categorically, he said, no, I can't give you the key for the armory. The commander-in-chief gave me an order, and that is what I'm going to do. And he brought the key right to Morris Bishop and gave it to him.
All right. So who is in the room at that time? The keys handed over?
Keys having those same military officers, a number of civilians.
Where's Bugsy?
Bugman?
Yeah.
Yeah, Bugman was in the ops room all that time. But interestingly, only 2 soldiers who remained with weapon inside of that ops room was Lieutenant Bugman, he put it, and myself. But I was carrying my pistol, and he had his full combat, his pistol, and his AKS. And he tell them categorically, nobody is going to disarm him. Okay. And he said that in the presence of the commander-in-chief. And Morris Bishop wasn't worried because he knew Bugman was as a soldier who would stand up for what he knows is right.
So you're disarmed, you're at the top level now, waiting for instructions as a soldier. You're in the ops room together with Maurice and others. Devon, what happens next? What after he collects the keys? What is he saying? I can't ask you what he was thinking, but what was he saying, and what were others saying inside the room at that point in time?
Well, he began to put things together, in my view, sitting there, because I was sitting right between the 2 rooms, the room where Morris Bishop was, and then the other room, the operational rooms where all the maps and military things were. So I had the best of 2 worlds, right? And watching at Morris Bishop, and so he was basically getting people together and telling them to look to do certain things. For example, Don Ross, who was I think the press secretary, he called him and gave him, and that is why Don Ross escaped from execution. I could tell you that bluntly, right? He told him, he said, look, go down to the telephone company, right, and get in touch with some of the regional leaders and let them know that he, Morris Bishop, right, is in control and everything is becoming to be normal, and so. And Don Ross didn't hesitate. Himself and someone else jumped in that same car, P9, right, that green car, and went and did exactly what
to contact the regional leaders.
To contact the regional leaders, and in the meantime, I'll be up there, and so there were some discussions, and a very interesting phone call came in. The commissioner of police at that time, Ian St. Bernard, called from, I think it was from Fort Frederick, right, asking to speak to the commander-in-chief, right, as the commissioner of police. Okay, identified himself basically, because that is what the person on the end I was listening to was saying, and everything like that, and it was Yunus Whiteman, right? And he told him, he said, you want to speak? He said, there is no negotiations right now. He said, the best thing for you to do right now is to surrender yourself to the nearest police station.
So he's telling the commissioner,
he's telling the commissioner of police that.
To surrender yourself to the nearest police station?
To the nearest police station, and so. Right? And there were other discussions between, other phone calls with persons from on the region, and so trying to communicate, and so. But that one in particular stand out, right, as to what was told to the commissioner. And I sit there and I knew that wasn't going down well, because the phone was hung up and everything like that. And
hung up or slammed down?
Well, I shouldn't say slammed down, but he was put down, right? And so, but after that, Maurice Bishop was briefed and so on. There was some discussion going on with the military persons in the room together with the commander-in-chief, right? Civilians, yes, some of them, if they were paying attention, would have been privy to some of the things I was saying. And one of the very, very interesting things that came out of that, the commander-in-chief said, the military, the army will continue as normal, but without Headache and Bogo, Lieutenant Colonel Ewart Lane and Major Leon Cornwall. Right? Those two names in particular was mentioned by Maurice Bishop. The army will continue, but it will continue without Ewart Lane and Liam Cornwall. Mm-hmm. And you could have seen the expression on of the faces of the military personnel who were there. Even myself was sort of shocked because those two persons, knowing them they were my chiefs and close personal, mm-hmm. friends and so from NYU and, and everything like that. And that became very puzzling.
Part and parcel of the revolution.
Yeah, and that became very puzzling to me because you're talking about Lieutenant Colonel Ewart Lane was the person who was in charge of the army, the day-to-day commander of the army, right? So he would be responsible for all the military units when it comes to defense. Mm-hmm. While Liam James, Usu, was responsible for the interior part, security and all these sort of things, right? Personal security and other, security things and so. And Bogo Cornwall was the political commissar, was the political chief of the army. So you're talking about, and in addition, they were two central committee members of the party, two of the high-ranking members of the leadership of the revolution. So you hearing Maurice Bishop uttering that and saying that, you began to be worried, and you could have seen the expression on some of the faces of the military personnel.
Is this the first time that some of you realize how bad the thing was?
Well, that day, at that
because
time,
that's people you wouldn't expect to hear that about, and at that point in time, you're hearing that. Were there whispers about that sort of thing taking place among you all at the fort, the military at the fort? That you had this split, this serious split in the party?
That's when it started, really. That's when you start hearing this. Like I said earlier on, I don't know if you remember, I was saying prior to the whole build up there, the culmination, then the killing and so on, there was this talk around. So you were hearing which side or who on this side, and they were trying to kind of feel out the soldiers to see which side they will take. And there was some sort of what you call encouragement of where they want you to be, So there and then he told some of us that there was something on. Yes? And then even after, like you said, Bishop was saying who to let have command.
It was interesting, and a lot of persons up to this day, 35 years after, have not yet, and through their negligence and not seeking information, 35 years ago, not realizing that the revolution basically was destroyed, right, when two things happened. Firstly, the question of joint leadership was introduced, and the agreements and the disagreements with it. So that's brought the whole thing out in light. And secondly, most importantly, the house arrest of Maurice Bishop. After it was said that he gave orders to spread a rumor, right? It was said that Maurice Bishop was called, and it was documented even in court, called two of his security personnel, right? One, Cletus St. Paul, who was the chief of Maurice Bishop personal security, and two, Erie George, who was the one second in command of the unit responsible for protecting Maurice Bishop. It was said that he called both of them and told them to go and spread a rumor that Phyllis and Bernard Code wants to kill him.
But the thing is, it's turned out not to be a rumor, because we saw what happened at the end of the day.
At the end of the day,
so
that is what happened.
It may have, instead of being a rumor that he was giving, it may have been a message.
It manifested to be true.
It could have been a message that he was putting out that, look, this is the intent.
Because I think he knew, in my view, he knew more than anyone else why and for what reason, he said that, right? He said that and everything like that. But these were the two fundamental things that basically turned the revolution back. Because one, the whole question of joint leadership would have not gone away, right? Because it was something that was discussed and everything months, perhaps years before, right? And understanding too that Bernard Code was not, up to October 19, was not a member of the party. He had resigned both from the Central Committee of the party, and 1 year before he had resigned from the political bureau of the party, right? So he would have not been a member of the decision, the quote-unquote official decision-making of the party. Now remember I said quote-unquote official decision-making, right? And so that day, in my view, was the beginning of the end of the revolution, when those two things happened. But on that day, when the discussions were going on in the ops room with the military officers, and that statement was made by the commander-in-chief about these two comrades in particular, in my view, that was Morris Bishop's way, the commander-in-chief way of saying that these two persons in particular, right, were either involved in either treasonous activity or counterproductive to what the process of the revolution or whatever it was. They did certain things that he was not in agreement with. And so he was not prepared to sit with them as military personnel. And so
these discussions taking place in the ops room and so on, when was the first sign of trouble for you? What made you aware that, look, we in trouble here today?
Well, after that statement, right, and then sitting and, talking, listening to some of the military officers and so, I realized that they were not settled, because in my view, they had known something before, or they was aware or communicated to before being in the ops room at that time.
So they knew that a counterattack was coming.
Well, as military,
you would think that they knew.
Yes, as military personnel, right? If they did not know, right? Because remember, they came into the ops room after all the civilians were on the fort. So communication between the military personnel on the fort and the high command on Fort Frederick, the Region 1, that was the headquarters at that point in time, right? Communications was between them still, right, before everything got cut off. So you would have never known what was communicated to them before what was told to them by Morris Bishop, in other words. So their mindset again would have been, but as a military personnel, and so sitting there, listening to Morris Bishop, what he said, right, and his eagerness to continue the revolution and what it stands for and the way to go and so, and looking at the faces of some of the military, I know they were worried and so, and it was not yet about perhaps 15 minutes, to be exact, around 15 minutes after that, and so, right, while in the ops room, and so, the first gunshot that I heard, right, and I heard it because it was not far away from me. The first gunshot that I heard, right, was the shot of a pistol. I know the song of a Makaraf, right, and know and how far it was for me, so I could have tell it was the sound of a pistol. Pow! Pow! It was the first shot that were fired.
So you heard 2 pistol shots?
Fired.
Before that, all you would have been hearing was the noise of the people around.
Noise of the people and so, because remember we were in the room, but one of the doors were open because persons were in and out and so, right? So that shot was the first that I heard. And then after, there was a short burst of automatic fire. Most likely it was either from an AK-47 or an S. Ta-ta-tow, ta-ta-tow. And so, and then there was a little lull for a couple of seconds. And then, boom! That is what woke up everybody. That is what drawed everybody's attention to something was wrong on the fort.
That is when you heard that's the BTRs or BRDMs.
No. That was a rocket propelled grenade. Rocket launcher.
Mm-hmm.
That was fired right towards the building.
Into the ops room or just the building?
Towards the building, directly at the ops room. And there were other persons there. They could tell you the damage and so that it was done. As a matter of fact, I think it was one person that got killed from that explosion.
Was Mez, right?
No, that was the young lady they call Avis Ferguson. Her whole back or bottom was blown away. It's the second time that I saw persons, somebody inside. And so, just watching her on the ground. But that was a thing. But that day was the sound of a rocket propelled grenade. And that is when the chaos started. Right? And there are a lot of doubts from people saying that the soldiers came to the fort, firing BTR and so on. That is incorrect. I could tell persons and I will dispute anybody, right, wanting to tell me that the soldiers came on the fort firing BTR and AK-47 at the crowd. The firing from the BTR and the machine guns and so from the soldiers came after those shots and the loud boom. And they were firing from both sides. There were civilians who were firing from on top of the ops room and from on the step around, firing in the direction of the soldiers, right? Now, I should also mention and reiterate again, and I keep saying because it can't move away. The first person that got shot, right, from those pistols, I didn't see him got shot, and so, but that was the first person that fell from that BTR was Officer Cadet Mez. He was shot in the grinds. Person saying he was shot by soldiers, that was incorrect. He was shot from a single shot from a Makarov right in his groins, and he fell.
So why? I have spoken to one individual who mentioned to me that they were one of the persons that took his body down from the vehicle, and they're saying that he was shot from the back.
He was not shot from the.
Well, could it be he was shot from the back because he was turned around?
He was turned around. His back was facing the foot. But I would not thing with that. But I know for a fact that he was shot. I know the person who did it.
So at this point in time, we hear the talk of crossfire at this point in time. Obviously, the crossfire would not have been coming from Mr. Ruffin and the other soldiers based at the fort because you all were...
They were disarmed.
Civilian.
So it was civilians that were shooting towards the armored cars. And the armored cars, the soldiers there, shooting towards the civilians.
Yeah.
Did the armored cars themselves open fire on the building?
No, well, you see, they say armored car, but it was only one armored car to the front. That was the only one that could have fire.
Yeah.
The other one, obviously, if it fired, it would have hit
you'd have, yes, you'd lick up all the soldiers and everything in front. So the one at the front did fire, right, on the building and so. And the one of the casualty that I saw, right, in terms on the ground, he can only be shot by two things. One, it was either the BTR, the gun from the BTR, or it was a machine gun, a PKM machine gun, the one with the belt. Vincent Noel right? The trade unionist. And so he was cut across the chest with a heavy gun. You could have seen whole chest open and everything like that on the stairs.
That's the same with Nolu who had been asking for the key earlier for the army.
Exactly.
As well.
Yes.
Now, this it sort of opens out the thing because there's still this belief by a lot of people that you had armored cars firing, but it was an armored car, the one to the front.
The one to the front. There were two armored cars, right, and one truck.
Obviously, as well, though, if they had opened with the full weaponry available at that point in time, they would have blown the building to bits.
Of course, the whole building would have collapsed.
Yeah.
And
You're not talking about little bullets here. You're
talking about
shells.
I mean, 6 and 8 inches.
Yeah. Heavy artillery.
slugs and coming from there.
So that firing is taking place. You're looking for a safe place.
Yeah, well, all along, when they disarm the soldiers, well, you looking to secure yourself because I have no gun, no nothing. But bullet was all around you. So at the time, you're looking to secure yourself. You look for a hiding place, keep your eyes open, and so on. So that was the whole thing. So when the bodies were asked to remove and all this thing there, nobody had gun. The soldiers didn't have no gun.
You all were still disarmed.
Still disarmed.
Yeah,
I was disarmed.
You weren't rearmed until what point in time?
Well, after the meeting in the mess hall.
Yeah, when they
we were deployed. Yes, deployed to different places. Then you're gone. You pick up your gun again.
So Devon, you all are under fire. What is Maurice doing?
Well, the fine, and from the time the heavy fine started, and so Lieutenant Porgy, Cherubin, Lieutenant Hippolyte, those two in particular, gave the command to all civilians, everybody, to go to the ground, lie flat on the ground, because the women were screaming, "Oh my God, they come to kill us and they're killing us now," and everything like that.
So they saved the lives of several people.
Oh yeah,
Porgy as well.
These two comrades were.
Military.
I mean, they were my hero on that moment, right? And significantly too, and so while they were doing that, and so they were trying to get up everybody, lay down, and taking control of the whole situation. In the meantime, some of the other senior officers, right, had already beginning to exit the building through one where air conditioning unit came out, basically a window, and then there were the stairs going down to the bottom, right, through the communication room. So a few of them went down there like Goat and whoever, because when I was exiting the top, I saw them there. So there's only one place they could have exited to.
That should the whole where the air conditioning unit was.
They and the stairs going down to communication room. That is where Dorset Peters, the Sergeant Dorset Peters, communications chief on the fort, right, where his body was lying on the stairs with his whole face eat away again, like somebody just opened AK-47 in front of him, and so
well, let me ask you, Mr. Ruffin, the body of people like Dorset Peters and so on, were they as well put together with the other bodies?
No.
Or were they separated?
No. They were separated.
They were separated.
Yes.
So the only bodies that were being loaded on that trucks would have been the bodies of the leadership that was executed.
To my mind, I think, yes.
And one or two other persons who died during the crossfire and everything. And I say the crossfire, and I continue to say it, they were shooting at one point in time.
Two different set of shooting,
from civilians to soldiers and soldiers to civilians. Chaos. It was, and expecting so, because I am a civilian and I have a gun in my hand, and I am hearing fire, and I'm in a position to fire back, not understanding what is going on. Perhaps I may have fired, right? But I was not a civilian at that time, right?
Did you fire?
No, I had no reason to fire, because while we were continuing in the ops room there now, and so after all this fire, the noise stopped, and so fire still going on, and so Morris Bishop, right, turned around and said, call out to Bugman and Porgy. He said, comrades, see, they turned the guns on the masses. They turned the guns on the masses, just like that. He was specific.
Unison Whiteman, what is he doing?
Well, he was taking cover. He was one of the persons that was down on the ground together with Cref and Miss Bain, that's Honorable Bain's mother, Norris Bain, couple of other persons, Brad Bullen, Evelyn Maitland, Goatee Robinson, couple of them.
On the inside,
on the
down flat.
On the inside, flat down, and so. Because I remember Goatee Robinson in particular. I mean, he drew my attention, and so.
Why did Goatee draw your attention?
Well, he was, while the firing was going on, and we were trying to, well, Podgy in particular was trying to take control, and calm down people, and so he was lying on the ground firing his weapon.
No, so he did fire back.
Through the door. But the thing is, where he was firing from, he would not have affected anybody on the ground because he would have been firing over the heads of everybody based on the trajectory, the elevation, and so, right? And not just him alone, but, persons. You had to be on that veranda, right, in that building to be shooting at the soldiers to be accurate or in the bottom, and so on. That time when the firing started, nobody could stand. Who was in front there was either wounded or who died. Right in front there.
So several people died on the
walkway
to the front.
Notably, I noticed Vincent Noel. I could tell you of Vincent Noel and Dorset Peters.
So those two died on the walkway in the front.
On the well, Dorset Peters died on the step from the communication room, and Vincent Noel got trapped right on that corridor right there.
Okay.
And so.
Was Vincent armed?
Yes, he was.
So he most likely would have been firing.
Well, it's possible he would have been firing. I can't say I saw him fire, but he was armed. He had a pistol and he had a AK-47 across his thing. And he was more, in my view, he was the one that had that kind of commanding way about him in these few moments, just before the firing. Because he was in and out with Morris Bishop, communication with some of the soldiers and Morris and other persons and so. So he was one of the persons giving directives and so, just before the firing and so start. But inside of that ops room, and so when you would have seen, I had the thing, number of persons got shot there from shrapnels and gunshot that was sprayed inside there by persons, soldiers, who at one point in time went to the top where the antennas were, and then one of the air conditioning unit blown off. And so right there were soldiers there who were firing on the building. Some of the bullets got into, and so
ricochet.
Yeah, ricocheted and everything. And in my view, that is where some of the persons got injured, and Miss Belma got the young student. Miss Bain got shot. I think she still has a bullet lodged in her hip, and so and Peters got some shrapnels and so around her body and that sort of thing. So around her head and so and then you had Avis Ferguson lying on the floor there with the whole back open, and Miss Gemma Bain, Miss Belma. I said Miss Bain. Belma was right there, right? She was on a chair, and she was shot, right, from one of the bullets right through her head, and she was just bleeding.
That's the child?
That's school child from St. Andrew. She was the one that led basically the demonstrations. Yeah. And so some persons say that they target her, but how could you target somebody when they were not in your sight? She died, right, and so with bullets that was lodged inside of there, but she was not watched straight through and just shot. And so because she was not shot by no one inside of the room.
Okay.
That's for sure. So she got caught in some of the thing. Yes, she was active, very active in all what went on the day before the 18th in St. Andrews, and on the day itself, October 19th, in terms of whipping up support with the school children and other persons and so on. She was leading, one of the leaders of the demonstrations and so.
Okay. So, going a little further now, because it's after 12, and City Sound, we hope that you're holding on with us, huh? We hope that City Sound is holding on with us, right? Hold tight, right? Yeah, so we're going down the road now. The firing has stopped. Devon, what do you do? But before I go to you, Mr. Rufin, the firing has stopped. What do you and the other soldiers at the top end do?
At what point is
when the firing has stopped now? After all this firing that has been taking place, the crossfire, the civilian shooting at the soldiers shooting back. You're unarmed. You're to the top level. What do you all do? You all just wait for the all clear? What do you all do?
Well, yeah, we were just trying to figure out where to assemble, where to get yourself in position. Waiting on the next command, so to speak. The next course of action, so to speak. And because everybody was just haywire,
It's chaotic.
Yeah, because there's this belief by a lot of people that the soldiers who were based on the fort are the ones that kill a lot of people.
No, man. That was we were protecting the fort in the sense of protecting people from getting hurt too, and at the same time protecting yourself. Because remember, that was the biggest massacre you would have ever, and crowd we have went through. Big crowd before, where everybody in good spirit. Like on the airport, people go to rallies and different things. But when you see this barrage of people come up there, in that kind of a state of mind people in, you don't know what to think. So firing on the masses was never in the mind of anybody.
It's not an option.
No,
that was never.
So the firing has stopped, Devon. You're in the ops room. Avis Ferguson is dead. Gemma Belma is dead.
Well, she's not dead.
She's not dead yet.
Not dead. She was transported to the hospital.
So she is critically wounded. She's been shot in the head.
Yes.
But she's not yet dead.
She's not yet dead.
Who else is dead in the room? That's it?
Well, that was the only...
Avis would be the only person dead in the room.
In the, and Dorset Peters on the next room, but going down to the stairs. Right? Same upstairs, but just at the top of the stairs, he was caught right there. Right, these were the two persons, and on the outside, for sure, I knew of Vince Noel, because he was shot outside, right outside that building. He was not executed.
You seen any civilians outside there?
Yes.
About how many?
Well, that was when I got down, but I'll let you know that after.
Right.
When I got
okay,
down.
so let's go back up to the room before we go down the stairs. Let's walk out now. So
the firing stopped.
Firing stopped.
Yes, and there was a voice, there was a call for persons to put down their weapons and come out with their hands in the air. Lieutenant Cherubin was the one who basically started leading persons, women and children, from the room, right? Himself and Hippolyte Bogman. And so Bogman specifically said that, look, women and children, right, to the front. And so, right, and Porgy was at the front because he was the leading, and so, and Bogman turned around and say, Morris Bishop will stay around me, right? He will go out together with me. Because, in my view, Bogman would have already known that something else would have happened based on what transpired up to that point, right? As a senior military personnel, and so having more information than me, the junior. And so, he specifically stayed at the back with Morris Bishop, myself, Unison Whiteman, who it was again? I think it was Fitzroy Bain.
I don't know if Fitzroy was there yet. Could have been
Yeah.
there.
I think it was Fitzroy Bain. That Fitzroy Bain or the guys from St. Paul's, Pumped, either Halen and Brad Bullen, right? Came out around the same time. The women and children were in front. Everybody was with their hands in the air, leading, and so on. I stayed back at the back with Bogman, and so on. We started exiting the building.
You left your weapon in the building?
No, hell no.
You're still armed?
Yeah, I was
Bogman
still armed.
is still armed?
Bogman is still armed. I was still armed. But not my weapon was not visible. In terms, my Makarov was inside. And so inside of my waist and everything like that. So, and because I wouldn't going out there in civilian, despite soldiers knowing me, civilian with a weapon in my hand, that was suicide, basically. So with that, and on exiting that building, and so I told you the first person that I saw And he was not dead as yet. It was Vince Noel, foot of the stairs. And so, cut right across.
Critically wounded, but not
yeah,
dead.
critically wounded. And knowing, I mean, seeing the wound, you know he would not have survived. And so, and then going down the stairs now, there were one other person at the bottom line close to a burning vehicle. And so, not sure if they were dead, but most likely, right? And when you reach right down at the foot of the thing, the women and children going out and so on, they were exiting. And there was this voice, grab Morris and all of them and bring them on this side. Right? And so, when Hippolyte Bogman heard that, and so he said, Devon, that is your exit. And he basically just gave me a shoulder, you know, and I slipped between one of the truck, not the burning vehicle, but one of the trucks and the concrete where the bees and them was right at the foot, right there. Slip out, and on exiting there I saw two bodies. Didn't make out one, but I make out one. He was this guy they call Saltfish. He was one of the attendants at the Regal Cinema collecting tickets and so. Light-skinned guy. And so. Seen him earlier on, he always had a little pistol, 38 and so. He had that pistol on that day. But when I saw him exiting from on the foot, he was lying, you know where the flag poles and them are?
Yeah.
Right. He was lying on his back, right underneath by the flag poles. And he was riddled with bullets. And when I tell you riddled, like someone stand in front of him and just open up by AK-47 in front of him, because you could have seen all the bullet holes and you could have seen the bullet draining from the entry of the wound. So you imagine what was at the back. And so he was there. One of my cousins got shot, but I didn't see him. That was Sheldon Romain. And so he got shot on that foot. A young guy too. He was in the camp over with us and so, and he got shot. And so but seeing other persons while exiting were persons who were wounded, and so who had, you know, broken hands and foot and dragging on the side while exiting and so. And
so people dragging off, no one assisting them, trying
well,
to get
well,
them off.
yeah, I saw one gentleman in particular. He had to be his foot had to be broken, and he was dragging going down. And so there were soldiers there, but the soldiers who were there at the point in time were soldiers who came with the BTR and the trucks, and so to recapture the fort.
So they had no time with that.
No, well, their attention was not for the for the wounded or anything as yet. Although part of the mission, based on my understanding and coming from the person, right, and so that gave the order, was that one of the units that was responsible for the evacuation of the wounded and taking care of them after the assault on the to recapture the fort, and so
you have left the fort now, Mr. Rufin. You're still on the fort.
Yeah, up to the last.
From your location, you saw the execution. Could you have made out any of the soldiers who made up part of the team doing the execution?
Well, of course.
You knew this. You knew any of those soldiers?
Yeah, those I
Were
saw.
they soldiers based on the fort who were rearmed, or were they soldiers who came with the team that came down from Fort Frederick?
I figured they had a team that came, because
those were not the soldiers who were there all day.
No, Andy Mitchell, something Richardson. Cosmos Richardson. He was one of those. Those two guys.
And Vincent, what is his name? Anyhow.
Yeah, but I remember looking at these guys and them with the chain, you know, the machine gun and so on, looking at them, you know.
Did they seem enthusiastic?
Well, they were.
Or they would just seem as though they're doing something that they did not want to do, or were they just simply robotic, following orders?
To my mind, looking at them, they were people who came there with a mission to do something.
Well, they did. They did.
Yes,
They just came there with a mission.
We could have seen it. Yes.
So this was not the soldiers who were based on the fort
No.
that were
No,
drafted
no,
into
no.
a team
No.
to
Well,
do this.
they would have
These were
never.
a group of guys specifically
Came from a different region, came with a mission
to do this.
To do what they did.
Because they must be noted that the mission was given at Fort Frederick, right, by the commander of the army at the time, right, specifically what to go down and do, right, and so on, and that is precisely. Now, there may have been soldiers on the fort who would have joined the unit to ensure that everything, went along as normal. For example, there were persons, some of the comrades who were convicted. The soldiers were Prime and Major Stroud and Redhead.
Who were already at the fort.
Fort. Now, these were leaders, and that's why some of them were charged with the murder of Morris Bishop, because they were present. They were senior military personnel, and so the argument was that they were all part of that execution.
But people like Dumpy really have a choice other than that you're joining the line,
Yeah, well,
you would have been in the lineup too.
Yeah, Dumpy and
you could have basically said no.
Yeah, I would say persons like Prime and them were persons that just get caught up in the entire moment of the day. They couldn't be. They were jailed and so because of being present as a senior military officer on the fort. Because very few, if not any, senior officer that was on the fort got away from those murder charges. The majority of the persons who were persons who were based on the fort, right? And so you could have seen the the direction and so. But all
someone has messaged said Vincent Joseph is the other one that you're looking at.
VJ.
But how many people made up the firing squad then? The firing squad was roughly about how many persons?
5.
What did you notice?
The amount that died on?
No, the firing squad, the people that actually did the shooting.
Okay, yes, it could have been about 5, yes.
Yeah. Based on my information.
The 3 names, the Richardson, the Andy Mitchell, who was that guy name?
VJ.
Yes.
Yeah. Vincent Joseph, Cosmos Richardson, Andy Mitchell, Callistus Bernard Abdullah. Right? And there was one other person.
I can't remember.
Gabriel?
No.
That's not the name?
No, Gabriel was the chief of armory on the fort, and he ended up turning as key witness for the prosecution.
Yeah.
And so, right? But he was
not part of the firing squad.
No, he was not part of the firing squad, but he was present. Persons said that he took part in basically, as the rumor, as I would say, some persons say there were soldiers going around finishing one or two persons who they figure.
Did you see
that?
Did you see that? Did you see any soldier go around and finish? You said you saw somebody standing
I saw somebody
over
Morris. Yes.
Okay.
I can't remember who was the soldier. But I know there was some finishing done.
Yeah.
Yeah, with
that's
close range.
That's the only, you heard that, you saw that, but did you hear other shots afterwards? Like, okay, after Morris, they went and they finished this one, they finished that one.
After the
finishing? The one, yeah. No, I mean like during the finishing, you saw Morris, but you didn't see any do that to anybody else.
No, I didn't see anybody else.
Okay. So we're still up at the fort. Devon, you've left the fort now.
Yeah.
You've gone to your location.
Well, no, first of all, I went straight to look for my mom. Knowing that she was in a demonstration, I saw her in a demonstration. So I went straight to Pebbles.
On the Carnage?
Not on the Carnage, in town, in St. George's right there.
You
wouldn't know that Pebbles.
I would know that one.
that Pebbles is located in that building. You see where the CID was, right opposite the bank in Tonga by opposite Foodland?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Right. You're going to the direction of the Carnage, right? On that street. I forgot the street. What that center street is. What's the name of that street?
The center one close to the market there?
Yes. That street that runs straight across the Foodland. It's Halifax Street. That's yes.
I think so.
Now, Pebbles was located, well, you know about the Bata building and that sort of thing.
No.
After Cromwell Scott. Okay, you know where the Green Electricity Services was before they moved away?
Yeah.
After that building, right, there's a big upstairs building there that the DeGales control. That building there was the Pebbles restaurant.
I remember the DeGales building.
Right, that big building upstairs and downstairs, that was the Pebbles restaurant there. So I went straight there to look for my mom. And while I go there, she wasn't there. But when I keep coming back out, I met her going in with one shoes on her feet. On one side of shoe. She lost the next one. I just brace her, hug her, and I tell her, well, look, I got to go to the camp. And she didn't really want to let me go or anything like that. And everything. But she understood. I was only, 16 or 17, somewhere there.
And Mr. Rufin,
a young man.
Yeah, fresh. Just not long, came from Cuba and joined the army and so on.
So they sent you to Cuba at what age?
Yeah, I went to Cuba when I was
14?
No, when I just turned 16.
Also, you just
spent a couple of months. Yeah, he spent
okay.
a couple of months there, trained, and then came back, and then was immediately left school. More Mr. Ashby. Yeah, despite Mr. Ashby want thing, but we left school and joined the military. So
it's a few of you at that age. And what age you would have been at that time, Mr. Rufin?
I would have been about 19.
19. So teenagers basically that went through this thing.
Yeah.
We have some people that have been trying to call, and before we run out of time, let's try the phone line and see who we have on the phone line. Good morning. Hello. Hello, good morning.
Good morning to Mr. Devon Romain and Mr. Sheldon Scott, and good morning to Patricia, Matthew, Mr. Deputy, and all the Grenadians. What a day today. I'm sitting here listening to Devon, but I want to say it's Bogman, the recipe that saved me. And Arlene was with me. I hold Arlene hand. Arlene Romain, but he slipped away. He slipped away and he goes to the arch, the little arch in the back where they line up the bishop and them and kill them. Bogman is the man that bring me back and put me in a trench on the fort where they have them flags. They had a trench there with some sandbags. And Bogman put me right down there and he stand up on top of me, he had his gun. And he directed people where to go. And when the thing kind of cooled down, I jumped over where they used to take out, extract the teeth, come down to the hospital step. I listened to you while you say everything about Bogman. But Bogman that saved me because I was going in the back. And a guy said, well, where you going? And then Bogman tell me, lie down, use the F-word. He put me in that trench. You understand? And the Amaka, Mr. Devon, when we went up to get at Bishop, that Amaka was the one that they parked under by the government house where the bamboo was. And that Amaka take its time, come down that street and come up behind the school and go up to the fort. The first shot, I'm telling you they say, I'm telling you what somebody tell me. The first shot, when you're going up to the fort, we didn't know if ever running down, we run up. And we run up. Me and Jacqueline then, she's in America now, and the same Arlene. And Arlene's last word to me was, "It's me as a patriot." That little boy, a little boy, I can't remember how old he was.
He was about 14.
And there was a lady, when I jumped, was a white woman that was living in Grenada at the time. She used to drive a black kind of Volkswagen. She asked for help. I could not have helped her. I said, "Miss, I need help for myself." And a drag come down the hospital step. When I reached on the Esplanade, I met Pram and them, and Simon Moses are deceased now. I said they killed Bishop and them of this. Simon telling them, don't bother with that, she's a crazy woman. But it's a long story. I could give a whole, write a book that went on, but I see with my eyes. So that's just a little piece. I could write a book of what I see with my eyes, because I used to work with the Cuban doctors, Agustin and Blanche and them, in Monuj. And the morning of that revolution, you know who gave me a ride to drop me behind this school? Was all the guys that they charged for Maurice Bishop murder. Them that picked me up in that van and they give me a ride and drop me behind this school. I have a clear memory of that up to this day. Have a good day, Grenada.
All right,
Bye.
Tammy.
So Cammy would have been the one that going up to the fort with Aline.
Yeah.
And I have a good friend there. He's on the live. He was standing next to Aline when he was shot.
When he was shot, yeah.
So he was there as well. So youth had a significant part to play in the revolution because you at the age of 19, Lance Corporal, right? Yeah, Lance Corporal. Based on Devon, what rank you carried?
I ended up as PFC. Private first class.
I thought that was close to KFC.
Yeah, because I just joined it. But you know what is interesting to note, the leadership of the revolution, 80% of them was within the age of 20.
How old was Lane at that time?
Lane was around when the revolution took place. Lane was perhaps around 21.
So by the time
Bogo and all these guys in their 20s.
Older than 25?
Yeah, they would have been in the late 20s when they went to when this thing happened and went to prison.
So young people.
Yeah, they were young guys, in the 20s and the 30s. Morris Bishop was only 30-something, 36. I think 39 when he died. Right? When they took over, he was Bernard Code was a little older. I think the oldest person in all the whole entire leadership would have been Dixon, Radix, Unison Whiteman would have been, right? Who again? Well, Norris Bain would have been up there, and so General Austin would have been one of the senior, persons. They were in the perhaps late 40s, early 40s, late 40s, but the percentage of them, Morris, Bernard, all of them, 20s and 30s and teenagers, young 18, 19 persons who were basically the leadership of the revolution.
Okay, and let's see who we have on the phone line. Good morning. Afternoon, actually.
Hello, good day.
Afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Yes, sir, you're live. Go right ahead.
No, listen me. I saw you said about the revolution thing,
And you have to make it quicker because you're running out of time, so we want to see how much calls we could get in before we finish.
Okay.
Yes,
go
right
ahead.
The revolutionary military council had been constituted from the government of Grenada. That was announced by Commander Austin, General of the People's Revolutionary Forces. Now, Bishop and the group Pride and the Soldiers killing 2 members of the PRG. That's Sergeant Dustin Peter and a warrant officer, Raphael Mason, and wounding several others. The Revolutionary Forces then give company to the soldiers guided in foot report to shoot, and in the process the following people was killed. That's Morris Bishop, Unison Whiteman, Jacqueline Craft, Fisher Bain, Norris Bain, among others. The Revolutionary Forces then insisting the wounded didn't get into hospital. Also Lieutenant Colonel James, he then wondered in which Caribbean country could a civil and force attack a army headquarters with a massive bloodshed involving. He also indicates that in the case of Grenada, deaths so limited is because of the love of the soldiers for the people. Thank you so very much.
All right, my
Thank
brother.
you very much.
News report.
Very interesting, That particular statement that was made by General Austin was the first lie that was made right after the execution.
That they were killed in the crossfire and not in the execution.
Could you imagine?
Right, that statement was the first of a lie that was said to try to cover up what went on the fort. Because I remember a couple of days after, I had a discussion with Lieutenant Colonel Ewart Lane, because I was almost sent to the prison when I returned a couple of days after to the fort, right, by my the duty officer up there, Lieutenant Harris. He told the duty officer, the one who was on the desk, to send me down to the prison. And so, but in a discussion with Lieutenant Colonel Ewart Lane and Prime and others, and so, it was told to them, right, that Morris Bishop and others had soldiers lined up to execute them. Right, and so, and I had talking to the military persons after, that whole thing, and I told them straight up categorically that was a lie.
It couldn't be.
That was a lie.
Because you would have been there if it was
you
something like that you would have seen.
I was on the fort there right through.
Understand? So, and that's whole thing, and the crossfire, Morris Bishop, and when I heard that, I was on a vehicle, right, heading to my my location, and when I heard the general made that statement about Morris Bishop, Unison Whiteman, and others were killed in the crossfire, I was like, crossfire? How could that be when I came out together with them, when the firing stopped, came out of the ops room with them, right? Most of them were taken right in front of my eyes by soldiers waiting at the bottom.
You were in line with them.
And I was like coming down with them. I mean, I always say,
so if it's
Crispin Hippolyte man.
If it's two people on this planet that could corroborate the story that was a total lie. The two of them sitting in front of me right now.
Oh,
one who saw the execution and one who came out with them after you had the battle that went on. So both of you obviously know that was a lie.
Yeah, that was
total nonsense. I mean, there was nothing there truthful.
Yeah, and that
as a soldier,
the crossfire was. I mean, come on, what's crossfire?
As a soldier, though, afterwards hearing that, what were you going through? You hearing now that the official line is that these people were executed in crossfire, when you stood there and watched them execute them.
But Sheldon, I've been hearing that year after year around this time. Like I said, this is the first time I came on air, trying to recall all what I saw, where I was, and things that happened. And that crossfire thing, every time I hear about it, it hurts to the core, because there was no crossfire at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Well, at the time, the lineup was totally deliberate.
Mm-hmm.
Crossfire had its time. Yeah, the crossfire was a certain time, and it ceased, and then the official thing took place. So those folks that up to now still going with the crossfire talk.
Nonsense.
Yeah.
Doesn't make sense.
And then not only that too, later on that night, or even I think the next day or later on that night, the said general came back and gave the correct statement that the following persons were executed.
Yes.
So there was a second broadcast.
Yes. And he came back and said that. You understand? Because that first one couldn't hold. Because it was seen right through, people and so on. Shoma, that flare that you saw there, that was a signal that mission was accomplished.
Okay,
that's all I can say.
4407377. We're gonna take your calls. Quick, You're taking it quick. 44073. And what's the overseas again?
And 347-329-3101.
We have some listeners listening all the way in California who are listening in
Jamaica and all.
Right around. They're listening.
Sheldon, one of the things as I journey, right, and so continuously to help persons understand what went on that particular day. All right. I'm glad that
Let's take this call. Don't lose it all.
Yes.
We have a caller online. Good morning. Hello. Morning.
Yeah, morning, Sheldon. I hear you too clearly, but that wasn't the first line the revolution told the people, But what I really want Devon to tell me about, they had a. Hello.
Yeah, we're listening. Go ahead.
Yeah, they had an emulation ceremony on the night, and we never really hearing about that. So I'd like to hear something about that, please.
Well, I think that's what you would have spoken about
after the meeting.
Yeah.
During the meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There was an emulation ceremony during the meeting that you all had at the mess hall.
Yeah, there were some names that were called.
For special
to big up,
give them. As the rule.
Who were some of the names?
I can't remember some of the names, but there was.
I wasn't there.
To be quite frank with you, there was an emulation exercise.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember the names who was emulated. Mm-hmm. Yes, but there were some people that got what they call
this time you're still in shock.
Distinction, yes. Yeah,
you just had to basically pick up bits of human body parts.
Sheldon, I remember
with your bare hands.
Yeah, I remember people from the neighboring country. There's one guy we very close, a soldier though. After the meeting, he put his sack on his back and just heaved himself over the wall. I remember after the meeting. I remember a soldier, a good friend of mine, just put his bag on his back and heave himself over the wall. So people was in disarray. People's mind was really distorted about, a lot of things, So those of us who see around the place that a whole lot of sanity, I mean, folks, you don't know. You don't know, I'm not crying for nobody to be self-pity or anything like that, but, according to where you were and which side of the fence you sat, you will, understand certain things. Yeah, and what went on, what you would have experienced, again, that's the next thing. Yeah?
And I was saying, Sheldon, as we, not just me, as we continue to enlighten persons as to what went on that particular day, a lot of persons must be mindful, right? This is part of our history. And we must be very truthful as much as possible as to the events. If you don't know of what took place on that particular day, you were not there, don't continue to spread things that you hear people say.
Second-hand,
right?
third-hand,
Second-hand,
15th
third-hand information. And for years, for 35 years now, people continue spreading a lot of false information about what went on. You know?
We have a
Good
caller.
afternoon and welcome.
Hello, good afternoon. That's right. Good afternoon. Hello. Okay, seems as though we lost that caller.
Yeah, you know, and we must be mindful that, no, we owe it to our children, the future of this country, to make this thing right.
Yeah, there's another caller. Yes.
Good afternoon and welcome.
Hello.
Hello.
Good afternoon.
Oh.
You're live, caller. Go right ahead.
Yeah, I was just wondering whether you guys are familiar with the saying, you shall reap what you sow. If you sow the wind, you shall reap a whirlwind. Are you familiar with that saying? I think it's a biblical verse.
I've heard it before. Not sure where it came from, but I've heard it before.
And would you agree that the revolution, Maurice and Bernard and these guys had been sowing the seeds of slaughter for the 4 years that... Pardon me?
No, we're listening to you. We're listening to you, caller.
Would you agree with me that they more or less sowed the seeds of what happened on October 19th?
I can't make that assumption.
Did any one of you guys read that guy's book, Conception and Deception? I think it was that brother from St. David's there, Teddy Victor.
Mm-hmm.
No, I did not.
I haven't read it yet.
Me too, I haven't seen it.
Okay, because I would suggest that while we would spend time deliberating on what happened on October 19th, we might get a better understanding if we really take an objective look at how these guys try to railroad Grenadians into a foreign kind of ideology. Now, if you read Code's book, you would see that the whole thing was deception and trying to hide things from the people and having different layers of Grenadians. If you go on YouTube and you read Rasta Nang's account of what they did to him, if you talk to people who were familiar with Ralphie, I can't remember his last name, but Ralphie was from the village of Tempe. Devon should know him.
Ralph Thomas.
These guys more or less brought these things on themselves. Now, mind you, there was no one who had mad Maurice as much as I did. I was involved in the NGM from the very start. And people who might recognize my voice would know exactly how involved I was.
Okay.
But I would blame Maurice because Maurice had given Bernard the full leeway to have to say and do whatever he wanted before the revolution. And so when the time came after the revolution and Code wanted to have equal say, and Maurice being advised by foreigners that this should not be the case, obviously they were going to reap what they sowed. Now I realize that it's almost time to end the show, so I would not continue. But if Maurice had tried to rein in Bernard earlier, then I would think that this thing would not have gotten there. There's a whole lot that we should look at to see what led to what happened on October 19th. And I would conclude by again saying that unfortunately they reaped what they sowed. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, my friend.
Yeah, that might be
well, I always say that I cannot...
Go ahead. The calls are coming through. We spoke, so we're giving...
Good afternoon.
Hello? Let's try it this way. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yes, you're live. Go right ahead. You're live. Listen to us on the phone and go right ahead.
Yeah, I'm listening to the program. I, as a schoolboy, was one of them that saw boys that morning when they took him out of the house. I think he was in a green short pants, half naked, if I could remember correctly. And that morning was just GBSS, the building reading GBSS that morning. GBSS and high school and that whole event leading up to it. I think Unison, the Seascape, what is a hotel close to Romain on top of the hill there?
Seascape.
Yeah.
Seascape.
Yeah,
Hello?
yeah, we're listening. You correct.
I think they tried to grab Unison there, and we was innocent at the time, didn't know gun could have killed us, and we just refused to let go.
Yeah, you're right.
I didn't go on the foot. I don't know what happened on the foot. After they say Market Square, and then they changed, I just decided I didn't go on the foot. I don't know what happened on the foot. But all the events leading up, Morris was in a truck. I think they tried to bring him out, and then before they put him in the Mazda car, he and Jacqueline and them.
Yes, you're correct. Yes.
If
You correct.
I
You
stand to be
definitely-
corrected,
No,
but I
you
think
definitely correct.
You're going good.
Yeah.
Yeah, you correct with the truck, and then from the truck he was transported to the green car.
after the guard hut
Yeah,
was lifted over the fence. There was a next big gate before we get to Morris, and there was a armored car inside it too.
yeah, you're right. See, that's it. Yeah, you're right about the truck. We have the photo to basically.
When I saw that, I intended to come out, but I had to go in to see Morris. And then I can't remember the names and the faces, but I've seen them lift him up and put him on his shoulder and bring him out.
Yeah, you're correct. You're
If
so
I could
correct.
remember correctly, one of those guys, I think, I didn't know was a clerk at them time. I used to call them Kiri boots or core boots. Take out that and want to put it in Morris' foot.
Yep. All right, my friend.
All right, thank you very
Thanks
much for
again.
that.
Yeah, and that is the thing that jogged my memory. It was a truck. Definitely was a truck that was the first transport he was put into, and then he was moved from the truck to P9. That man's a vehicle.
Show some people the truck and all
Yeah,
that.
show some people the truck.
Yes,
You know?
but you were saying something just before the caller called in, and we were giving preference to the calls. That's so
Yeah.
see if you could recollect your thoughts.
You know, I was saying that what the gentleman was saying that we keep blaming, for example, Morris Bishop for doing this or Bernard Code for doing that. But collectively, I think the revolution, the leaders of the revolution, they made a lot of mistakes. A lot of mistakes were made, and they all have to be responsible and take responsibility for it.
Okay, we have a call on the overseas line.
Good afternoon and welcome.
Hey, I just saying good afternoon. Listening to this program, very interesting. I don't want to give away my name, but I'm sure you all know me by my voice. But who knows, knows. Who don't know, don't know. I just want to ask Roy. Is it Roy sitting there?
Yeah.
From our old schoolmate?
Yeah, Roy, man.
Yes.
Roy,
Okay, I
Roy
think you
Ruffin.
know who I am. I just want, just revealing this to me. We're friends for all these years, and I'm just hearing you saying this thing. And I just want to have one question to ask you. I think you say you pick up bodies on the foot and everything. I just want to know about two friends I have, because, this baffled me all these years. Derek Dumont and Andy Alexander. I'm sure you know those guys from Pleasant.
Yeah,
Up to
yeah,
this
my
day,
friends.
Nobody could give a account of those two bodies.
Was our friends.
Did you ever know or see anything about those guys?
Andy, what's the name again? Andy.
Andy
Dumont.
Alexander. That's Montgomery. Montgomery, he was a man of the RMC, I think, too. That's his nephew. And Derek Dumont is another young boy. We used to call him Dracula, just for some reason, he liked Dracula movies when we used to go movies. So we used to just call him Dracula. I just, this thing baffled me all these years. I always listen to this program, never call, but I just want to get this thing off my mind. Whatever happened to these two guys? Because up to this day, they were my friend, especially Andy, and I've never known what become of his body. But I know that he got killed on the foot. I was living on Marshall, the third house going down on Marshall, and I didn't go out to free or do anything, but I was a young boy at the time and just walk up there and looking at bodies. Well, I didn't know at the time it was bodies. I thought it was books they were showing over the foot, and only to realize at the time it was bodies that were just jumping over that foot for people fearing their lives. And a guy passed me with stone face trying to ask him what happened what happened down there? And he couldn't answer me, covered with blood, and just passed me like his ghost I'm looking at. That was my recollection of this whole thing, but I was right in town looking at everything, listening on the outskirts, never take part in anything. But I just answer me that right off the air, and I just want to, give me an answer to this, if you know.
You sound like somebody I would have known, because if you say third house going down Marasil, because I grew up in Tempe.
Yep. I used to live, I didn't grow up there, but I from the country, up by Rye area. But I live in Marasil around that time. I running away from the revolution and from the militia in St. Andrews.
And you come into fire.
It was mandatory that most people at certain age had to be in the military. So I run from the militia to Tongue, and used to be back and forth because people from Tongue identified me, want to put me in the militia, running back. That's why I end up being a Tongue boy, or I should say living in Tongue. But anyway, the third house on Marasil, me and a friend named Donald Smith used to live in an apartment downstairs. The house is dilapidated now, right by Westmoreland School. That's the downstairs there I used to live for.
Yeah.
And I saw even the trucks passing with covered with the bodies on fig leaf, coconut leaf covering. I was there looking out the window and seeing these things, activities, scared. Even if I was not on the football, I was really, really scared. I remember that,
Okay.
So I'm listening off air now, okay?
Okay.
Guys, have
Thank
a
you.
good day. If you need it, I love you.
Yeah, man.
All right.
Same here, man.
But before we go on to that one, let's just take this quick call.
Hello?
Hello.
Yes, good afternoon.
How are you?
Not too bad.
Yes. Well, as to what happened on the fourth that day, I really want to give my testimony, but I don't think I will have enough time. But one thing I want to ask Devon, well, now I get clearer what the reason for the red flare that was fired up at Fort Frederick, because a handful of us got trapped on the fort, and we had to leave after everybody ran out. So we were able to witness everything that happened on the outside, including when the armored cars arrived. But one thing that remained a mystery in my mind, there was a 45-gallon drum in the yard of the fort. And after the barrage of bullets, which was supposedly the bullets taking down Maurice Bishop and others, because we didn't know what was going on. We only heard the bullets and so on. This drum exploded, and it was airborne for a while. Does Devon know what was in that drum?
No, but any drum that was there would have been definitely either diesel or gasoline.
Okay, because I remember a handful of us stayed on the outside of the fort, and we were witnessing that because there were some soldiers out there. They say they were maneuvering and keeping watch in case they got an attack.
Because right at the foot of the fort, around the flagpole, right, there was a little sort of tunnel inside there. They used to keep like diesel and so in drums right there. So the trucks, when they come up on the fort, they will refill right on that corner right there. Okay. On the fort. So most likely any explosion with a 45-gallon thing would have been either gasoline or diesel.
Okay.
Definitely there.
And when the armored cars arrived, we are right in there was a truck. I think that truck was the one that they say that brought up Maurice Bishop and others. A yellow steel truck. We used to call them the PWD trucks. And the engine was running all the time, eh? Yeah, the engine was running. And we took shelter under the truck after the armored cars arrived. The armored car and the lead, this is the one that opened fire. There was a soldier standing on the outside of the armored car. And after they opened fire with the armored car, the soldier landed. And after they opened fire for maybe about a minute, then the hatch opened and the soldiers emerged, and that's when they started to fire. But they weren't firing in directly into the crowd. They were clearing a path, and they keep saying, clear the way, clear the way, clear the way, and they were clearing a path with the AK-47 rifles, and there were shrapnels flying left and right. I think most of the people who died would have been people who just let go from the walls of the fort and they came down, They just fell down, You could see them just coming down like rags. And some of them were going to be hit, probably being hit by the by the fire from the armored car. Because I remember when we took cover under the truck, I was on my back. And when the firing went in a different direction, we had to change direction and behind the wheels of the truck. And the soldiers were just inches away from us. They passed in and we sweeping action of the AK rifles, and they were cutting apart and saying, clear the way, clear the way, clear the way. And eventually, when everything ceased, and they were up there, everybody cleared the fort in a jiffy, and we ran down with our hands over our head, in a surrender mode. I remember jumping over a dead soldier. There wasn't any civilian or so in the yard. No bodies of civilians. One soldier was lying dead. So the theory that people were really firing from the crowd, if that was really accurate, I think there were going to be more bodies in the yard. But there was this one soldier, I remember jumping over him when I was running down, But one thing I want to say, my description, another part of it was solved. I think it was last year I heard a guy, or year before, I heard a guy from Birchgrove, because I remember I was wearing a long sleeve blue shirt, and it was all bloodied, but I was on the truck, but nobody, I didn't see anybody get hit while I was in the truck. But the guy claimed that he was on the truck and he lost an arm. So that would have explained the blood was coming from the truck, because the guy who lost the arm was on the truck, in the tray of the truck, But I wish I could meet that guy one day, And there were a number of us on the outside. We stood there. Well, everybody, after a time you get, you feel immortalized because you escape. Imagine fire from armored car and so on the outside there. And we stayed out there with the soldiers. There was a guy, a kind of semi-vegan guy. He was threatening the soldiers and saying, you'll kill everybody already. What you maneuvering again for? And he threw a rock at them, at the soldiers. They had to take evasive action. And they said, we're going to crank, we're going to crank. I remember one person in the little group, somebody noticed some blood on her arm, and they said, what happened? And then she had a bullet wound. She wasn't even aware of it, and they asked her to run back to the hospital. When we went to the hospital to look for a friend that was missing, he was with us. And I remember seeing this pile of bodies in the yard, close to casualty. I remember seeing Miss Bean actually carrying people bodily, and they were sifting through the pile of bodies and actually carrying people bodily.
Let me ask this caller. You're saying pile of bodies. A pile of bodies as in how much?
Well,
how much
maybe
people?
About 10, 15.
10, 15?
Yeah, bodies, a pile of bodies. And
you're sure on that? Because
yeah,
the figures...
We went down to look for the guy. That guy, he's from Trenchtown. He was with us. He was an electrician. I was one of the electricians. And we went to look for him, thinking that he was one of the casualties. And when we went, we saw the pile of bodies, and they were actually sifting through the bodies to see who was alive. And some is being actually raising people. And then she had this blood on her chest, and somebody said she had a bullet wound. And she was doing all that, not realizing that her husband was up there being processed to be assassinated or to be wiped out. And one thing I have high praise for, the nurses at the time. I never seen something like that before and after. The nurses were using trolleys, and they were going up to the fort and moving bodies and wounded from the fort to the hospital, as though it's something that they were used to. There was no sign of panic. They were just doing it calmly. And they had these trolleys. I never saw them before or after. Like when they cut a drum in half lengthways. So these trolleys had this kind of half drum thing on it, and they would put people so they wouldn't roll off there. I never seen this trolley before or after. But these are the kind of trolleys they were using to carry the bodies down. And it's something that I wish I didn't experience, and something that I'm happy I experienced. Because, one of these days, I really want to give an interview somewhere, and I wish the persons who were in that little group, maybe they could come forward and give you testimonies to exactly what happened on the outside of the fort that day when the soldiers landed with the armored cars.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, caller. Thank you so very much.
Okay, thanks a lot.
All right. Wonderful. And I'm very sorry for those of you on the overseas line. I had it engaged. I know some of you may have been trying to call, but we're running out of time quickly. We have about 5 minutes remaining. And I wanted to come to the question that the individual had asked about Andy Alexander and is it Derek?
Dumont, yes.
Dumont, yeah. Do you know what happened with those two individuals?
No, I wouldn't know what happened with those two individuals, but it's two individuals that I knew.
Were they on the fort? Were they based at the fort?
They were based on the fort. What I know, though...
Do you know them to be alive after the events of October 19th?
I did not see them after. What I do know, though, I know the speaker, though. We went to school together. Morning, sir. If you say you will listen off air. I know the gentleman well. We went to school together and everything. So, like I say, the question that was asked to me, I cannot answer the question. This, as I said to you again before, my first time on air after this whole ordeal. Yeah? So I'm just gathering my thoughts here while I listen a few things. And again, it's where you were, what you know. Because I'm only saying what I know.
Yeah.
Yes.
I've got a message from someone saying that one of those individuals died on the airport in an APC.
I was about to tell you, those two soldiers in particular, the names ring a bell as two of the soldiers that are buried in the cemetery, soldiers that fought the war.
So it could be a case of them not dying on the fort, but in the confusion that existed afterwards,
after the invasion,
being reported as they died on the 19th, when in fact they died probably on the 25th.
Yes.
So one of the names is I got a message from someone here who seems to be in the know, said that one of them died in one of the armored cars on the airport.
Got ambushed.
Yeah.
On there, definitely.
So I would have seen pictures of that person there, that person's body.
That last caller made a statement, and when he talked about when he went to the hospital, and he would have been talking about right after the thing on the fort, that bodies pile up 10 to 15 and so. I would dispute that categorically because, for example, you telling us, right, that you there and you see people sifting out. I mean, come on, that is so thing. And then a person as me, when I would add the body count as to who were executed and what you were saying, right? You were saying that the amount of bodies you saw there and those who other people say they jump over and they died and what. You talking about, way past the official score of person that really died.
Do you have any idea of how many persons may have died in the process of jumping over?
I heard count like 27. I heard, those kind of counts. And
but you're doubtful of it?
I'm doubtful. Up to now, I don't have an idea.
Because you can't get a listing, and up to now you're hearing that, but you can't get a listing that says, well, these are the people.
No.
These are the 27. Grenada is not a country of,
exactly.
40 million people. It's not like Russia where you have how much millions of people and you just say, well, okay, 20 dead here and nobody comes forward to claim them. It's a small country.
Exactly.
We must know the names of the people if it's 27 people
unlike,
or 50 people or 200.
A serious thing that people continuously turn a blind eye or deaf ear on. It was documented after the invasion that the remains of those who were taken away from the fort, right, was put into a hole in Camp Saline, right, and was later fired. But the remains, and not all the bodies were burned, the remains, right, were discovered by the Americans. And that is documented. So those of you who are outside, they're continuing to say, right, and I'm very serious about that, I'll defend that, continuing to say, right, that the bodies after the invasion, you should ask Bernard Code and Austin and them, because if you really want to know the truth, follow the trial, right? And I'm giving you directions. Follow the trial, and there is a particular doctor from the University of the West, from St. George University, who gave a statement or testimony, right, as to the remains and what they identified and everything like that, right? So let us stop trying to twist and to make people feel that the bodies were not recovered. They were not perhaps in the condition that we would have want to see them in, but most of them, if not all, were recovered.
What about the contention by one writer, I think it's Maurice Patterson, the late Maurice Patterson, that some of the Grenadian soldiers who died during the period, the 25th, of October and so on were accidentally sent to Cuba.
Yeah, they did.
Some were sent back.
Yeah, they were sent back by the Cuban government. A lot of them is buried at the cemetery in
But that does not account for all.
Well, all those that were sent.
For instance, those that died in Bourgeois.
Yeah, a lot were decayed. There were those that decayed. Those on the
Chuck. Elton's body. What happened with Elton's body? Don't tell me you had to move that one too.
No. Elton's body remained on the foot. I think it decayed.
It stayed a long time.
And the Americans, they were the ones that cleaned it out. Because remember, he died on the 25th. Huh?
Yeah, he died early. Yeah.
Let's take what I think might have to be our final call, because I think we're way over our time. We have a caller.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
I'm calling for the hot top.
Yes, you're live.
You're live, my dear.
Yes, thanks. I'm calling from Cali, St. George's.
Ooh, okay.
And I'm watching Devon getting emotional over the bodies. Devon, the bodies was not took to Camp Saline. It was taken to Calivini. All of them. They was put in a hole. They was crushed. They was burnt. The School of Medicine didn't get bodies. They get pieces of people, burned people, pieces, because they passed tractor on them. Come on, you all hurting some people still, you know. After we know the truth, and sometimes we're listening to people speaking as though some people was not hurt. A lot of people was hurt during this revolution, from 79 to 83. I listened carefully and want to meet you all face to face.
Oh, I would love that. I
don't like to hear you all say that the Americans and the Americans.
My dear,
hello,
I think
we did our wrong.
My dear,
we did our wrong. We cannot correct it now. We must not stop blaming the Americans.
Oh my
God.
God.
The bodies was destroyed before the Americans came.
Oh my God.
Right? They get parts of people.
Nobody.
They say, ought we have it? Ought we know where you put it? You understand me?
Well, ma'am, I'm just telling you.
Don't get emotional, because you're making me get emotional too.
Well,
okay,
you are getting emotional, but I was just trying to explain to you that the Americans are the ones that would know of the remains of the body after the invasion.
They clearly said they hand over everything to us.
Exactly, that is my point.
It's not the Americans again. So stop blaming America. We're glad they come.
Ma'am, you're not listening. Ma'am, you're not listening.
Yes, I'm listening now.
No, what I'm trying to, we are saying the same thing, you know. I'm telling you that the Americans were the ones that discovered the remains of the bodies, right? And they did what they had to do with it. Either they give it to Otway was present, right? And everything like that. Okay, so that's what I'm saying. Listen to me carefully. What I'm saying, my contention is that we must stop saying, right, that after that invasion or after whatever, Code and the other soldiers knew where the bodies are when they were arrested, when they were already captured.
We're quickly running out of time. So, caller, I'm so very sorry, but we'll have to end the call.
Okay, no problem.
But thank you so very much, and feel free.
You all know me very well. You get to see face to face, the debate will continue.
I'm coming down in Cali when I'm done. All right, my dear.
All right. Okay, bye-bye.
I just want to...
If Devon did said Camp Saline, it's not a willful attempt.
Yeah,
but it may have been a mistake.
Calivini, I say Camp Saline because Calivini, that basically, it was, you know, and so the permanent battalion down at Calivini, that was the main camp.
Mr. Ruffin, yes, you did place at least one body, the body of Norris Bain. Yes. He was the last one that was in the lineup as well. That was the last person they were waiting on.
No, it was Fitzroy.
Fitzroy they was waiting for the last one that they brought in.
Yes.
Did you know where the trucks went to after that?
No,
because you left and you went up to the mess hall. You said after you dealt with that one and you could not deal with another one.
Yes.
So you left there.
I was given the permission to go up to the mess hall.
So you went up to. So you don't know where the trucks went to from there.
I do not know.
Okay.
No.
All right.
And just before we end this, Sheldon, let me just think, and that I would love, especially to you, ma'am, if you would do a little bit more research as to the ending after October 25th and what happened, even the trial. Grenadians will be surprised to know there are a lot of information, right, that we're not privy to. I know you're not. That will clear up a lot of things. A lot of things as to one, the bodies, if they were recovered after, they were put in Calivini and everything like that. And some of us will continue saying or saying that Bernard Code and others know where the bodies are and you have to ask them. Yes, as soldiers and as other persons responsible, they put the bodies in that hole. It was burnt, some of them beyond recognition, right? Most of the body parts and so were collected. But the final persons that collected the bodies were the Americans.
Yeah.
And that is indisputable.
Any final words, Mr. Ruffin?
Yeah, well, we continue to hear utterance of hurt. That's why I'm here this morning.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I myself hurting in a large way. I mean, here sort of bring me together a bit, and I hope that people out there, will come together, and those who know certain things, come out and talk the truth. You really be brave and say it as it is. Nobody wouldn't jail you. I don't think. I can clearly say it, but I don't think anybody will go to jail. We have seen people freed from the ordeal that went on some 40-something years ago. So, again, I just want to be brief and say I'm happy to be here together with Mr. Romain and yourself, Sheldon, and the listening public out there. Those of you who know me would know from my background. Thank you.
Yeah. Devon?
Well, again, it's just another year of me trying to help bring some more light to some of the things that went on and so. And I want us to take this thing for what it is, right? Let us, yes, I shouldn't tell people they shouldn't be passionate or they shouldn't feel hurt or whatever. It's something that will always continuously hurt us as a people. But remember, I urge us as Grenadians, young people, those of you educators who know the truth, continue to clarify and to speak the truth. There is information, undisputed information, the truth out there as to what went on after the execution, right? And so of Morris Bishop and others, right? And even during that time. So we need, as a people, to continue to read, help educate yourself, and share as much as possible. Let us try to not be too emotional, right, at times in conversating. Yes, lives were lost, and so 35 years ago, right, and so persons were imprisoned and everything like that, and it's something that we must never forget. It's part of our history, right, and we have to learn from our mistakes.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. Folks, just a reminder, we will be rebroadcasting this program at 8 p.m. tonight via 89.5. So if you've missed any part of the program, we will be rebroadcasting from 8 p.m. tonight, and it will be available online within the next few minutes. It will be available online. And I'd like to again thank, my co-host Devon, who's every year, it's a difficult one for him. But Mr. Ruffin, we'd like to especially thank you for giving another perspective of some of the things that happened on the fort that day, especially from the perspective as a soldier that was based there even before the crowds got there. We hear a lot from the people who went up. We've heard from Devon as one of the people in the ops room, but it's good to get another perspective from someone else who was on the fort on that particular day. And we hope that possibly you might be able to make it on the 25th. You can tell us about when you shoot down a helicopter. Exposing him.
Yeah, that's the side of it.
He's the one that shoot down the helicopter on Granans Beach. I don't know how to expose people.
I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah, so he wasn't just an aircraft artilleryman. He was a sharpshooter too. Yeah, so them who shoot down the helicopter down there.
Those who remember how high Granans School was, we were under the school. So those who remember on the beach in Granans, where Granans...
that's where you were based?
Catholic school, yes.
Hold the story. We're going to tell that story on the 25th. Again, sir, thank you so very much.
Thank you.
And to all the listeners, all of the callers, all of you who've been tuned in, all of the radio stations for staying with us for this time, we'd like to thank each and every one of you. We love each and every one of you. We've got to go right now. But remember, tonight from 8 p.m., we will be rebroadcasting via 89.5 CRFM. And again, 8 a.m. in the morning again via CRFM, you'll be hearing it again. We'd like to thank each and every one of you. Whatever you say, whatever you do it safe and secure. We want to be speaking to and with you.
And not about you.
Yes, indeed. And watch, we go end with a tune for the time, man.
Hold on.
This song is dedicated to all heroes and patriots who fall.
Folks, you know my stance and you know I'm a principled person. I have stated very, very clearly that the CCJ is the way to go, and it is inevitable. Look, now people could have reservation and you have a right to, that's your business. But at the end of it all, we would have to handle our own affairs here in the Caribbean. We would have to have our own system. And I am simply saying the time is now. The time is here for us to do so. And look, we can have disagreements. We can, look, I've stated on the program my position, and there are people who say straight up, Kem, I don't agree with your position, and they challenge and they say certain things. And I respect that. We should have a healthy debating going forward. Tomorrow we will have Joseph Roberts or some of his acquaintances or some of his colleagues to come in and speak about the CCJ, and you have the opportunity to ask a number of questions the same way. But I am telling you folks, you have listened to me many a years. I am confident that the CCJ is the way to go. It may not be perfect, and nothing in life is perfect. Nothing in life except God himself. But I am simply saying this is something that you need to look at. Give it a try. Look at it. Listen to the both arguments. I am convinced that the CCJ is better for this region than the Privy Council at this point in time. And I am saying it will be better for many, many years to come. So I am simply asking of you to vote yes for the CCJ.
The Caribbean Court of Justice, reaching one unity, coming together as one. Hear what we say. When you see November 6th, we voting against all the CCJ. Come out and make the right decision. It benefits in everybody. The Caribbean Court of Justice is what I come to promote. So when that time we just stick, make sure you vote and vote believe it. Let us get it right. I say everything has to fix. One Caribbean, one community. CCJ is the remedy. For the CCJ, yeah. Come November 6th, every Caribbean island I calling out one and all. For the CCJ, yeah.
Yes, for the CCJ. That's it. Vote yes for the CCJ.
Get up! It's time to vote for Caribbean Court of Justice. Man are ready to vote. The people ready to vote. I said they're ready to vote. We voting yes for Caribbean Court of Justice. We voting yes for Caribbean Court of Justice. I'm telling you, I go in and vote. You go in and vote. We go in and vote. Caribbean Court of Justice. She go in and vote. He go in and vote. They go in and vote. Caribbean Court of Justice. Grenada is a little island down here in the Caribbean. We've been through a lot in my lifetime, even revolution. And I must mention Hurricane Ivan. My dream is to see all the island come together as one. We voting yes for Caribbean Court of Justice. We voting yes for Caribbean Court of Justice. I'm telling you, I go in and vote. You go in and vote. We go in and vote. Caribbean Court of Justice. She go in and vote. He go in and vote. They go in and vote. Caribbean Court of Justice. My people, remember, November the 6th, Caribbean Court of Justice is the best choice. Vote yes to Caribbean Court of Justice. Up, 2, 3, 4.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is not about me, this is about all of you and all of us. But I want to say one thing before we start. In 1979, a number of our young people did something that reverberated around the world. Something that it may not have lasted forever, but has, in a world of no cell phone and no internet and no fax machine or nothing like that, has established institutions that today we are very proud of. MNIB, National Insurance Board, and the airport. You know, we should have been the first one signing on to the CCJ. We should have been. I don't know what happened, but given what we did then, we should have been the first. So keep that in the back of your minds with those of you who have all the excuses in the world as to why we shouldn't do it.
Grenada is about to embark.
Our Grenadian people are proudly Caribbean, and we continually strengthen the bonds of the people of the region. Together, we embrace our collective destiny.
We are the children of Marcus Garvey and Bob Marley, Vivian Richards and David Runner.
As Caribbean as West Indies cricket, as Caribbean as the University of the West Indies.
We are reggae, we are soca, we are one vibration.
Break the chain of colonialism.
Break the chains of colonialism.
The Caribbean Court of Justice. Proudly ours.
Caribbean ministers for health say health must be an integral part of climate change discussions. Details to this story and more coming up in the National Report. With the details to the news for today, Thursday, October 18th, 2018, I am Wendy Edmonds. Health needs to be a critical component of discussions on climate change for small island developing states. That is the consensus of the third Global Conference on Health, which was held at the Radisson Resort. Health ministers from throughout the Caribbean discussed the importance of ensuring climate-resilient health systems in small island developing states and agreed that climate change will continue to affect the ocean, water resources, and food production. However, it was noted that the main impact will be on health since the health sector has been absent where climate change discussions are held. PAHO Director Dr. Carissa Etienne says they need to consider the various impacts of climate change and to prepare to mitigate against them.
We have realized that health needs to be incorporated in all efforts for mitigation and adaptation, working with other sectors. Leadership for this multi-sectoral approach is critical. An adequate health response depends on the leadership at the implementation level of government. My appeal to you, our appeal to you, Honorable Prime Minister, is that you assume the lead in placing health at the very center of climate change initiatives. We would also like your support to influence the other heads of governments of the Caribbean region to do the same.
Prime Minister Dr. The Right Honorable Keith Mitchell stressed that placing the issue of health at the top of their agenda list is critical.
As one of the regional leaders who drives the climate change and climate resilience agenda, it is encouraging to see this conference creating and affording opportunities for delegates to discuss the challenges we face and to determine solutions and recommendations and to develop an action plan to address these challenges. This particular conference also provides a testimony of the level of seriousness that my colleague prime ministers of the region place on this very important matter, that not only touches our natural environment that many of us are so reliant on, but also addresses the health and well-being of our people.
Health Minister Nicholas Steele says the meeting entailed self-critical discussions on the systems that must be implemented and an action plan to minimize the number of citizens who will suffer or die as a result of climate change. He says the message of unity in climate change must be clear.
One of the first steps is to ensure that coming out of this meeting, a clear message is sent to WHO first and foremost as health ministers, that a SIDS desk be set up, that our dear Dr. St. John be empowered to represent us as a sister and daughter of SIDS nations, that she be our voice and our champion in Geneva. So we have developed an action plan. I believe we have developed a worthwhile and worthy action plan. We now need to put it into action.
The Grenada National Accreditation Board is seeking to ensure efficiency in the process of accrediting educational institutions in Grenada. It included a 2-day workshop on Thursday designed to pave the way for revising the 2011 Accreditation Act. Executive Director Pauline Finlay says there are some inconsistencies in the Act, so the workshop was designed to get stakeholder feedback for revision. Details from Annette Moore.
One thing process has to do with the amount of power given to the minister. Another thing, the composition of the board and the qualification of members. What skill set does the board member bring to the board to debate issues that deals with accreditation and make decisions? It's one of the things somebody pointed out. Then you have the development of SR&O. So you have the Act, but we do not have regulations that govern.
The recommendation isn't included that you could potentially just submit the findings. The minister could just submit the findings and not the findings and the recommendation. Is that what you're saying?
The consultation sparked lively and informed dialogue on the issues at hand.
Well, I believe that the recommendations of the personal persons would be a recommendation of a course of action, so that the minister will take that course of action, then reflects the findings.
The consultation will assess the expertise of participants to critically review the Accreditation Act No. 15 of 2011 to reflect new trends and practices in tertiary education and accreditation systems, while ensuring that clauses within the Act are current, pertinent, and in the best interest of GNAB's development.
Institutions and persons providing tertiary education need to be made aware of is that very soon the students graduating from their institution must hold a certificate from an internationally recognized accreditation body.
This is mostly to encourage a conversation on whether the Accreditation Act is in sync with international standards and policies and so on for accreditation.
Quality assurance consultant Mike Bradshaw did an overview of the quality assurance in higher education, focusing specifically on implications for the legal review. The consultant commended the work GNAB has done thus far, among other things.
Accreditation is a partnership. It's a partnership between the institutions and the regulatory body, in that to ensure that the policies and regulations put in place is fair to all and, most important, fair to the interests of the students.
With regard to compliance and fees as mandated by the Act, the consultant had this to say in terms of best practices.
In Trinidad, it was like about 3 years before the institutions, before it is impacted upon them. Sufficient time. There was training given to the institutions, to the external evaluators, so both the regulator and the institutions would have been on the same page, and that is actually a very fair process. So, I'm sure that the GNAB would give the institutions sufficient time. Hearing the conversations and the discussions going on, I am sure that they will have enough information to make recommendations to the board and to the Ministry of Education.
Finley also provided further details on current accreditation activities and a small update on the progress of that process for one tertiary institution in Grenada.
One of the things you do in accreditation is, because an institution has been established for a long time, there is something you call grandfathering, in that the institution would have quite a number of standards in place, and therefore we may skip one or two steps in the process and go straight to accreditation. So they may be accredited within a shorter period of time. We're hoping that by next year, we should do the earlier part of next year, we should complete St. George's University.
For the National Report, I'm Annette Moore.
This is the National Report. More news after the break.
Water up to my belly. Mattress floating, furniture floating, even the TV set floated for a while.
My sneakers were floating just like boats.
Floods. They can happen so suddenly. What can you do?
Listen, when I saw the portable toilet from the construction site up the road float by, and I realized that all that stuff was in the water.
Floods. Hazards. Take control. Reduce your loss. What can you do to help stop flooding? Keep drains and wells clean and unblocked. Find out lots more about floods and other hazards at your local disaster office. A message from the National Disaster Management Agency and SEDERA.
Welcome back. Extension staff in the Ministry of Agriculture has been increased for farm visits as of this month. That announcement was made by Permanent Secretary within the Ministry of Agriculture, Elvis Morain, during a recent consultation with farmers. He says one of the major concerns for farmers is the absence of adequate farm extension staff. Morain said that the ministry has partnered with ICA and MAREP to provide training for the extension unit to adequately equip them with the skills needed to perform their duties. As of the beginning of October, extension staff will be sent to the farms in clusters, which will alleviate the problem of limited farm visits by officers.
Extension services will be delivered in cluster. So in other words, you no longer see one officer coming to your farm, but it would be a collection, a group of officers. And these officers would be drawn from all the departments that offer extension services. So extension, as we know, extension, agronomy, livestock, pest and disease. So when they come to you, a group of persons will come to you, so you'll be served in every area. We are going to structure this in such a way that we're going to even be alerting the public as to when we are in the respective areas.
And that's the National Report for today, Thursday, October 18th. On behalf of all of us in the newsroom, I'm Wendy Edmond, thanking you for viewing.
Stay up to date with all that's happening with the new national party, NNP. Send us a message via text or WhatsApp on 405-8683 with your name, email, and constituency. Stay in the know with NNP. Get updated.